Good morning from wherever you're watching us from all sides and corners of Kenya. We welcome you to this particular program. How is your morning so far doing? We are doing just great. Another morning that we are here to meet you. It is on the 21st day of September 2021. This is Good Morning Kenya, and this is KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Low. Share with us what is your experience where you are, what's stressing, all right? Talk to us on social media. That is mine at Victor Low, at Jane Wamboy, at Doreen Arange, at Regina Manyara, and we'll have that conversation going. But I'm not alone as always with my able colleagues. Jen.
Good morning.
Jen, unveiling. I'm scratching to reveal, Jen. Scratching to reveal.
Kwani hii scratch card yako?
Scratch card imeenda wapi, director? Ala? Okay. There we go.
Hey, finally, damn. Kwani am I that dark?
Kwani ilikuwaje? Were you bottled at night or who bottled you? Because you're trying to scratch. I mean, you're the newest bell.
Camera copy.
Camera copy. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning. How are you?
Fantastic.
And a warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for choosing to start your morning with us right here on Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wamboy, and today being Tuesday, we always get to focus on matters of health. And today we're going to be having sort of a prelude conversation towards this coming weekend. We'll be marking the World Contraceptives Day, just trying to understand, what role contraceptives play in our lives, both for the males and the female. When it comes to contraception, it's a very sensitive, very gray area for most people, but that is what we'll be focusing on today, and more especially looking at how persons with disability have been factored in when it comes to contraceptives, both hormonal and non-hormonal. So that will be coming up in not too long. Doreen.
And a beautiful morning to you. Always, we appreciate you for making time to join us every Monday through Thursday from 6:30 to 10 a.m. This morning on the roads, we still continue to just unpack what the bus rapid transit system is all about. And this morning, we focus on yet another road that has also been earmarked for that project. At least as of now, so far, we know that only Thika Road is where it is just starting to take shape. But we have various other roads where this kind of project has also been earmarked for it to take place, and one of those roads is Waiyaki Way. And not forgetting that there's still some ongoing construction when it comes to the expressway, which terminates at James Gishuru Road along Waiyaki Way. So clearly there's a lot to focus on when it comes to that, when it comes to that particular road, and that's why this morning our focus will be simply on what will be happening along Waiyaki Way. And even as I tell you, amongst all other roads here in the city center, why in particular this is also one of those roads that has been earmarked for that kind of system. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange.
Doreen, before you go, yesterday was harvesting time. Somebody harvested some green stuff. Now you all know. People are harvesting in Meru. Americans are happy. So we are going green, we are going herbal. The world is happy.
Birthday, Regina.
Happy post-birthday. You harvested pretty well.
It was a good harvest.
Yes,
we are going
market
green.
And economy is booming.
Green, because you have to keep the environment.
Representing. Hi, Regina.
You are representing.
Regina, hatunanga ubaya, by the way. Hatunanga ubaya. It is the love.
This is a new year. So I'm trying.
And the baby is only 1 day old.
I'm really trying to start over again, like afresh. But my friends and my colleagues won't let me.
To accept too.
I thought we were supposed to start afresh. Nyinyi mnataka tuendelee na tabia zile mbaya mbaya. To this new year. No, I refuse.
Some old habits never die.
No.
Just how it is.
No. I choose peace.
Regina, good morning.
I choose peace.
All right.
I'm really trying.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm really trying. It's day one. This is a new start for some of us, though with colleagues such as this and friends, you can imagine, those bad habits will still cling, you know, in a toxic relationship. They don't want to let go.
That is a heavy word.
They don't want to let go. They still want to hang on, but it's okay. That's that. Good morning once again. You're watching KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya, and we have so much lined up for you in as far as news is concerned, matters of CBC, as well as that petition in court to just have a review of the fuel prices. Remember, on the 14th of this month, fuel prices went up. In Nairobi, a litre of super petrol goes for 134 shillings. In Mandera, it's 147. So the question and the correlation, Wanjiko has been, or rather analysts have been coming out to say that if the fuel prices go up, it means even the cost of production will go up at a time that even electricity has gone up. Looking at 1 unit of electricity, they're going up from around 2.9, that is 2 shillings and 90 cents, to around 3.4, rather 3 shillings and 48 cents. This is going to be passed back to the consumer. So there's that particular petition in court that was moved yesterday, as well as matters politics. Now, over the last few years, or rather if you could look back at Kenya's history, Mount Kenya region, or rather central region, has never been a hunting ground for voters. But ahead of the 2022 general elections, well, the mountain, everybody is scouring and scouting for voters in Mount Kenya. That is going to be coming up in not too long. Remember, we are live and welcome your feedback. You can reach us on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Include where you're watching this particular broadcast from. If you're tuning in, I'm Regina Manyara, and this is Good Morning Kenya. Kenya say they are ready to begin for a share in the government, with parties willing to seek support from the region. In a meeting held on Monday, NAK Kenya party leader Martha Karua was appointed as a group's spokesperson. The leaders, however, stood their ground that they would not fold their parties but will work under the Mount Kenya Unity Forum.
A group of leaders from the Mount Kenya region have softened their demands for 40% share in the next government, claiming they are ready to engage like-minded leaders with offers as they seek winning coalition partners. During a forum that brought together different factions, NAK Kenya party leader Martha Karua was appointed their spokesman, with a mandate to engage other like-minded leaders for a winning formula.
This forum has today unanimously chosen the Honorable Martha Karua to be our official convener and our spokesperson.
The move coming after Gatondo South Member of Parliament had outlined a number of demands, including the post of a deputy president and 40% seats in the government for the region.
We have seen in the history of our country that monolithic parties become oppressive. The other issue is security of the person and property. And these, like the issue of democracy and multipartyism, are issues that actually apply to the entire country. But as a region, we have flagged them off as our priority issues. The third issue is the issue of representation. We want equity in representation. The fourth issue is equity in sharing of resources and development. And these are issues that apply to the rest of Kenyans.
Nobody should stop any community of interest to come together, see together, eat together, and articulate their issues. So that's all what we are discussing.
The interests of the mountain are paramount to ourselves as we think as Kenyans.
But another group in Kiambu says time for campaigns is not yet and wants leaders to cease from preaching politics of hate against the Jubilee Party.
Jubilee iko na Jubilee Kiambu iko timamu.
Of abusing others, giving false information because you want to join another party. We restrain that as a party.
Meanwhile, Kathiani Member of Parliament Robert Mbui has come out in support of bishops and churches over the recent move to bar politicians from the pulpit.
The mountain is the scouting area, or rather now on focus as we walk towards the general elections 2022. The NAC party leader there, Martha Karua, appointed as a spokesperson of those particular parties within Mount Kenya, saying they're not willing to fold their parties, but they are willing to have talks with parties ahead of the 2022 general elections. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, the political scene continues to be fluid as matters of politics continue taking center stage. It is a campaign season for you as Wanjiku is to ask yourself a question. Has that particular leader delivered on what they promised you? Quite rhetoric. Now, the proposed fee increment by the University of Nairobi has sparked hue and cry among students and parents who now want their move shelved owing to the current financial constraints. The university's vice chair, Professor Stephen Kiama, however, defended the increment, saying it was aimed at improving learning, or rather the learning experience. The increment saw fees on some courses rise by up to 147%.
It was a beehive of activities at the University of Nairobi grounds Monday as freshers began reporting for the 2021-2022 academic year. The excitement of joining a premier institution of higher learning was, however, dampened by the huge rise in tuition and accommodation fees.
Sisi tulikuja tukijua the fee is affordable, both for the academics and for the hostel, but unfortunately the fee is thrice what has been used to be paid here.
Mimi nilikuwa nafikiri nalipa kwa semester moja ama mbili, singine naenda kutafuta. Juu niko na watoto wengine shule ma secondary school, high schools. Nalipa kidogo kidogo, ikifika mwisho wa mwaka nipate nimeshamaliza hiyo pesa yote mtoto afanye mtihani.
Self-sponsored students pursuing postgraduate degrees in courses like communication and business administration will part with 680,000 shillings for a 2-year program from about 275,000 shillings, reflecting a 147% increment. A 123% increment has been effected on medical courses for undergraduate government-sponsored students for medical courses from 26,500 shillings to 59,000 shillings. Their self-sponsored undergraduate colleagues will cough 640,000 shillings, up from 445,000 shillings. Those pursuing commerce, economics and law as parallel students will part with about 1 million shillings for the 4 years, a 70% rise. Increments which the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, said are aimed at improving services and will only affect new students.
We must also ensure that those students get the laboratory materials they need to be taught. They need good accommodation where they sleep. And to do that, you need, therefore, the financial resources to be able to cover for those costs. We don't want anybody to miss education at the University of Nairobi. So we will support them, even if it means giving them some work in what we call a work-study program, to ensure that they can do some work and earn a little money to pay. And then also others will provide for them that they can pay in installments based on their ability to pay. So we have put all these mechanisms in place.
He further said the implementation of the differentiated unit cost model, which has led to the deduction of government capitation in universities, has also attributed to the new changes.
The amount of money we receive on capitation from government cannot cover our costs. Yeah, we receive from government. Just the previous year, we received like about 5.2 billion Kenya shillings. Our budget is about 13-14 billion Kenya shillings. So you can see. Yeah, so we must ourselves, any activity we initiate in the university, we must cost it.
Besides reviewing the fee structure, the university also restructured its operations, doing away with some offices, merged functions to cut costs.
Well, now there is that. This indeed has elicited a lot of conversation, especially on mainstream and social media. Remember, we're also open to your feedback, and you can reach us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta on Monday said Kenya had made commendable progress towards the attainment of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and President Uhuru Kenyatta reiterated Kenya's commitment to the SDGs, saying the country will not lose momentum on the subject.
In a recorded video address to a side meeting on SDGs convened by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the ongoing 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly, President Kenyatta said Kenya would not lose sight of the subject. The head of state noting that despite the socio-economic challenges occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya has made progress in education, gender and climate change, among other SDG sectors.
I want today to reaffirm Kenya's commitment to the SDGs and to ensuring that we maintain the implementation momentum that we started with. Kenya developed a country SDG roadmap in the year 2016, which was then integrated with our national development agenda through our medium-term plan.
He said 2 voluntary reporting assessments undertaken by Kenya had returned positive results, adding that the country's 2016 SDG roadmap had been fully integrated into the national development agenda.
My administration has sharpened the economic policy by prioritizing action in sectors with the greatest multiplier effect on the economy, these being namely affordable housing, manufacturing, universal health coverage, and food security and nutrition.
Head of state pointed out that Kenya's push towards attaining food and nutrition security was being held by climate change, among other salient factors.
On other SDGs, it remains work in progress. Under SDG 2, which aims to end hunger and achieve food security, we face headwinds because of the vagrancies of weather triggered by climate change.
On housing, the president said Kenya had taken steps to promote sustainable cities and human settlements by implementing affordable housing programs so as to end the expansion of informal settlements.
Kenya has undertaken measures to promote sustainable cities and human settlements, and undertaken major housing and infrastructure upgrades to reduce the expansion of informal settlements as well as urban slums.
In his address, Antonio Guterres said challenges facing the world, such as climate change, conflicts and COVID-19, had slowed down global efforts towards the attainment of SDGs.
Now, following a court case to challenge the development and implementation of the competency-based curriculum to replace the 844 education system by a lawyer and parent, Esther Angwa, National Parents Association now wants to join into the case. The association says it supports the implementation of the new curriculum, and it is in this spirit that they want to join the case.
Professor George Magoha says the competency-based curriculum is an idea whose time has come and that no weapon formed against it can see the light of day.
Tupeleke kotini, we are going to meet you there, but I can assure you as a fullback my mandate. And I think His Excellency must have also seen mimi ni sura mbaya kidogo. So when I say mpira haipiti,
CBC is facing a myriad of challenges, latest being a petition lodged in court seeking its reversal. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha insists that the country is moving on, urging everyone to support it.
So the issue of the CBC, ladies and gentlemen, let us be very sober. We are not begging anybody to support us. No, because everybody has a stake. Would you like, when you have gone to be with Allah, which we shall all do, and I might go faster because of my age, would I like my seed to be able to survive? So excuse me, please, let me do my work, you do yours.
Magoha's calling on Monday received a backing of the National Parents Association.
What they are saying as parent leaders is, let the judicial proceed, but we will state our stand that Many parents of this country, more than 10 million, are in support of CBC.
The association has dismissed claims that the parents are struggling to meet the demands of the CBC.
Parents are told, go and buy this, go and Google this, go and download this. But we are told today that is not necessary. That is not the spirit of CBC. It's against the spirit of CBC. The spirit of CBC is use local available resources. So these stories we are getting are the social media stories.
Last week, the Law Society of Kenya, through its president, Nelson Havi, moved to court seeking the cancellation of the new education system in favor of the 844.
CBC conversation there. Now, 4 police officers and a civilian allegedly involved in the murder of lawyer Willie Kimani have a case to answer. The 5 who appeared before Justice Jessel Lasit have now been put on the defense with a hearing scheduled for next week, Monday.
Police officers Frederick Leliman, Stephen Cheburet, Sylvia Wanjiku, Leonard Mwangi and police informer Peter Ngugi now have a case to answer in the murder of slain lawyer Willie Kimani, his client Josephat Mwenda and taxi driver Joseph Migori.
From defense and
the prosecution had relied on 46 witnesses to prove how the 3 victims were abducted on the 23rd of June 2016 after they left the Mavuku Lokuts, where they had attended a case hearing. The accused persons have a total of 16 witnesses, with the defense hearing scheduled to kick off on Monday, the 27th of September.
So the defense will commence on Monday the 27th, and that's for the week. To facilitate the defense, I've ordered for the witness summons for all the witnesses indicated by their counsels, which is on record, as per the record.
The victim's lawyer, Professor Ben Sihanya, has termed the ruling fair and timely, urging for the expediting of the case.
Fortunate that we have taken 5 years and counting, but we must also appreciate the judiciary that they have also tried to do their best. So all of us really need to just continue working hard with the judiciary to make sure that at least we finish the next phase.
The victims' family members describe how the slow wheels of justice have taken a toll on their lives.
Tano imeisha na sasa tuko kwa 6th year. Migori family tuna hope iishe hii mwaka. Unaweza pata ina family kuna hata watu ugonjeka sukari, pressure, like parents hawawezangi kuhandle hiyo uzito wa mtoto kupotea na kupotea na hii njia.
Ndio ulipata wengine wamegonjeka, wengine kujituni. Sasa katika hiyo hali ya ugonjwa imekuwa ngumu sana. Every now and then you are in hospital, you are hospitalized.
Some would say that particular case has taken far too long. But we'll be keeping tabs on that, as well as other stories that are making headlines from the corridors of justice. Now, 2 petitioners have moved to court seeking the annulment of the decision by Commissioner General of the Kenya Revenue Authority to adjust excise duty and on petroleum products. The High Court Judge James Macau has certified the matter urgent, directing the petitioners to serve the 7 respondents, who include the Cabinet Secretaries, National Treasury and Petroleum and Energy, before the end of day yesterday, which was Monday. Now, the matter is expected for hearing on the Monday, the 27th of this month.
The decision by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority to increase fuel prices by an extra 8 shillings has attracted criticism not only from the Kenyans, who already feel overburdened by the ballooning cost of living, but the political class too. Dagoretti Northern MP Simba Arati has sought the leave of a speaker to adjourn debate tomorrow to discuss the increase in fuel prices, with Musalia Mudavadi's ANC party also said to be keen on sponsoring a motion seeking the reversal of the decision. Monday, 2 petitioners moved to court seeking the annulment of a consequent decision by the Kenya Revenue Authority to adjust excise duty charged on petroleum, claiming it was a further constraint on overtaxed Kenyans. Through lawyer Kenneth Amondi, the petitioners Isaiah Luyara Udando and Wilson Yatta argue that the decision to adjust the excise duty, though yet to get an approval from Treasury CS Ukuri Atani, was devoid of public participation and was a strain to Kenyans yet to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The petitioners also want the High Court to find the National Assembly as having abdicated its duties by failing to streamline expenditure and allowing increased taxation. High Court Judge James Makau has certified the matter as urgent, directing the two petitioners to serve the 7 respondents, who include the Kenya Revenue Authority, the Commissioner General KRA, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, the Cabinet Secretary's Treasury, Petroleum and Energy, the Speaker of the National Assembly, and the National Assembly by end of day Monday. The matter will be heard next week Monday, with each party directed to file a 3-page response to the suit.
And next week Monday it is. Now, a section of religious leaders claim that the greatest gift Kenya can receive during the International Peace Day is renewed cohesion between the president and his deputy. The clergy say the strained relationship has greatly hampered service delivery and is unhealthy for the push for a peaceful electoral process.
Kenya will on Tuesday mark the International Day of Peace, and calls are already at fever pitch for top political leaders to unite.
And our prayer,
the clergy say that Kenyans must work overtime to ensure the country heads to the polls united.
We note that peaceful and regular transfer of power is now an important part of our political tradition. We urge Your Excellency to rededicate yourself to this noble pledge.
The leaders are challenging President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto to bury the hatchet.
The growing political rhetoric arising from these differences does not augur well for peace and tranquility needed at this critical time of political transition. We therefore urge Your Excellency to do everything in your power to make peace with your deputy, such as you did with the then rivals in the aftermath of 2017 general election.
Meanwhile, the National NGO Council chairperson Stephen Kipchumba Cheboy is urging politicians to desist from making any utterances that may balkanize the country. Cheboy said Kenyans should cultivate a culture of peace to replace the devastating culture of violence, respect for the rule of law, and tolerance for divergent opinions.
We have targeted the political leadership because of the crucial role they will play next year, and the political leadership are expected to join us, make a commitment to the nation that we will uphold peace. We will trespass around the country to preach peace, talk to Kenyans. We inform Kenyans to reject political leaders who propagate hatred.
The International Day of Peace is marked annually on the 21st of September, with this year's theme being centered on recovering better for an equitable and sustainable world.
On that note, choose peace today. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back.
I wanted to tell you that I hired Cassandra.
Then kill me first. You have to kill me. I can't let you kill Moonlight, Daddy.
I don't understand why everything has to be done your way, Deborah.
Don't you understand this isn't the right moment to talk?
Deborah, tell me already. What is this about?
Please help me, Mom. Oh, please help me. Oh, please help.
Entrégale toda completo, olvida reservas, olvida el temor. Dame la llave.
Uko tayari, lakini tahadhari maadui wako.
Huu mdomo wako umezidi sasa, tafadhali kasuku. Hayo ndo maana pile kakukimbia.
Hivi ni vitu gani? Yaani muda huu wote nimeishi na wewe, unanizubaisha mimi na hivi.
Sina haja na wewe tena. Mimi ni mkeo na watoto wako wote wako kwenye viganja vyangu.
Try your best just to meditate it quick, Lord. Oh man, not telling her to dance it. Abding, Papa me chicken, tell her say, glory, glory to the Master. Come on, help me shout this name. Can we press out free? We got to be free.
Hallelujah be to the Most High God for giving me strength to praise His name. So I'm gonna preach the gospel of God.
I must apologize, 'cause I'm so sorry to treat you so cruel. All that was wrong, seen I was only playing.
Good morning. If you're tuning in, this is Good Morning Kenya. We're just bringing you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Where now we cross over to Migori, where learning was suspended yesterday at Nyamunda Primary School in Migori after 5 pupils were reported to be possessed by evil spirits. The school's head teacher, Frederick Tabu, said 5 girls collapsed during the morning assembly and allegedly started revealing their evil scheme.
The bizarre incident during the morning assembly prompted the school's head teacher Frederick Taabu to call in religious leaders to try to exorcise the evil spirits. When these failed, learning activities were suspended for the day to quell tension in the school.
Communicating in sign as if the other one wanted to fight the lady. So the anxiety, all the students of pupils came out. We could not contain the situation because there are around 6 girls who are affected.
As panic continued to grip the pupils, the head teacher sent all learners home and commenced investigations into claims by the affected pupils that they were recruited into devil worship by one of the teachers.
Actually, learning could not go on. So I had to release them and I sent them home to go and call their parents.
Board of Management Chairperson Timon Ogola also said they had received reports of pupils' engagement in dark rituals.
He told me some of our pupils are in Illuminati. Yeah. So I'll brief you later.
Ogola, however, called for calm to allow the findings of the investigation guide them on the appropriate administrative action to take, even as parents requested that the possessed pupils be allowed to stay away from school.
The thing is under investigation. Parents are here today. They are going to discuss. We are here with the chief. The education officer is also coming. So we shall come to the solution. You see, closing the school, that one is above us because nobody can close a school.
Wale watoto wenye wamekuwa wameadhiriwa ndio wangekuwa kando, alafu wengine waendelee tu na masomo yao. Kwa maana hayo yenye yanasemwa ya kwamba eti sijui nini na nini, sijui mara wanalilia, sijui kuna walimu mwenye ako na evidence, hakuna hata mmoja.
I like that particular upsound that, sometimes some things lack evidence in as far as support is concerned. And now we have a whole school closing down at a time when, parents as well as students are just struggling to just try and catch up. Remember, we are coming from, the disrupted learning or rather in-person learning owing to COVID-19 situation. So whatever is happening in that school in Migori, my question is, I hope we do not see it replicated across the country, because this takes me back, and I think this we're going to be addressing as we focus on matters in the headlines. It takes me back to some years where whenever we started seeing these cases reported in one school or the other, it felt as if it would spread like rapid fire across schools across the country. So we hope that this is not a wave that is hitting our learning institutions. Now, faithfuls from different interdenominational churches from Thika sub-county have held a 2-kilometer prayer procession from Getonyaga Shopping Center in Kwawaya village to cleanse the area of an alleged presence of a dark force fanning killings in the region. Caroline Kamau with the details.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. For these residents of Kiambu County, divine intervention appears to be the only antidote against a spate of killings which has left locals here desperate.
Kumekuwa na mauaji hapa ambayo hatujaweza kuelewa mahali imetoka. Kumekuwa na mambo ambayo imefanyika, watu wanatoka nje ya Kiambu wanakuja mpaka mahali hapa wanafanya mauaji, watu wanauana kama familia, wanauana mahali hapa. So tukaonelea mahali hapa iko roho ambayo imetembea na ni mzuri. Hatuwezi mariza na sheria, hatuwezi mariza mambo ingine ambayo haionekani na macho ya kimwili. Diposa tukapanga, tukawaita wachungaji na watu wa Gatuenyaga tuweze kuriria Mungu.
According to residents, a man was killed, skinned, and some of his body parts removed. Around the same time, a grade of 4 pupil was also killed near Kwawaya.
Tunaweza tafuta suluhisho kwa serikali yetu, kwa wanapolisi wale wako kwa area hii, lakini hatujapata suluhisho. Lakini tukaonelea ni vizuri ya kwamba watumishi wa Mungu wakuje pamoja, wakaweze kuongea pamoja, tukaweza kuwa na kongamano ya leo, tukaweza kuomba pamoja.
In another incident, a man allegedly stabbed his wife in broad daylight, with residents saying such acts needed divine intervention.
Wale ambao wanatenda maovu kutoka mahala ambao tumeketishwa pamoja na Kristo Yesu, tunawapatia hizo siku ambao tumesema 21, na sio ati mabaya yatazidi kutokea mahala hapa Pakatuanyaga. Kwanza tunaomba haya mambo yote yaishe mahala hapa.
Thank you. There's nothing that God can't do, indeed. Now we cross over to regional matters, where Paul Rusesabagina, the man who was portrayed in a film Hotel Rwanda as a life-saving hero during the Rwandan genocide, has been convicted of terrorism by a court in Rwanda. Rusesabagina was found guilty of backing a rebel group which killed 9 civilians in 2018.
Rusesabagina's journey from celebrated figure to state enemy happened as his criticism of the government grew. Initially, he was held for his acts during the genocide 27 years ago, which prevented some people being killed. In the Oscar-nominated movie Hotel Rwanda, Rusesabagina, played by Don Cheadle, was shown as a hotel manager who managed to protect more than 1,000 people who had sought shelter. In a period of 100 days from April 1994, 800,000 people, mostly from the Tutsi ethnic group, were slaughtered by extremists from the Hutu community. Living in exile, Rusesabagina went on to lead an opposition coalition which had an arm wing, the National Liberation Front. The FLN was accused of carrying out attacks in 2018 in which the authorities said 9 people were killed. Rusesabagina said he never asked anyone to target civilians, but did admit to sending the group money. Rusesabagina's family says he was kidnapped and forcibly taken to Rwanda last year.
Well, if you've never watched Hotel Rwanda, you can also watch sometimes in April. And now as we're working towards the general election, remember what you say sometimes, especially if you are in a position of power, can be used to shape the narrative and probably the history of a nation. So do be careful when you're spreading conversation, especially when it comes to matters hate speech and propaganda there. The tool that was used to, perpetrate or rather force the genocide was a radio there. We'll be keeping tabs on what is happening in Rwanda. Remember, Rwanda is one of Kenya's trade partners and not just a neighbor per se within, the East African sub-Saharan region there, but also Rwanda and Kenya we have been seeing interchangeably, especially when it comes to matters of investment as such. Just doing a comparison with what, the infrastructure and the development there vis-a-vis the development and mega projects that we're undertaking ourselves right here in Kenya. Now, this brings us to matters business, where the Kenya Revenue Authority says it will challenge a High Court ruling that declared minimum tax double taxation unconstitutional and halted its implementation. The KRA Commissioner for Legal Services, Paul Matuku, says this will ensure the tax agency continues to review and improve tax policies to ensure that every citizen contributes their fair share of tax. In his ruling, that was Monday morning, Justice George Odunga stopped the implementation of tax on account of being double taxation.
In April this year, the High Court in Machakos granted conservatory orders restraining the Kenya Revenue Authority from enforcing provisions of the minimum tax pending the hearing and determination of a petition challenging it that had been filed in court. The minimum tax was introduced under the Finance Act 2020 and was effective from January this year, charged at the rate of 1% of the gross turnover of a business. A petition filed by Kitengela Bars Association had sought to declare the implementation of the tax as unlawful and unconstitutional. And Monday morning, the High Court declared provisions of the minimum tax unconstitutional and the minimum tax guidelines void.
Orders a declaration that Section 12D of the income tax, as introduced by the Finance Act 2020 and amended by the Tax Laws Amended Act 2020, violates Article 201B1 of the Constitution and is null.
Justice George Odunga issued orders restraining KRA from implementing or enforcing the provisions of Section 12D of the Income Tax Act, which states that where a person's installment tax payable is lower than the minimum tax, then the minimum tax shall be payable. Justice Odunga ruled that implementation of minimum tax has the potential of subjecting Kenyans to double taxation and also unfairly diminishes capital for those making losses while businesses making profits. The capital base are unaffected.
The tax also violates the right to dignity under Article 28 of the Constitution, since it assumes that all those in tax law's position are evading taxes.
He ruled that minimum tax should be precise and should only target the intended. The ruling has been welcomed by business owners who say implementation of the minimum tax would have had a devastating impact on businesses.
Kana na ushuru ambao umesimamishwa na High Court, naona ni sawa kabisa, kwa maana ukiangalia vile saa nchi hali ambayo iko, umeona corona vile imetupija, makampuni mengi yamefuta wafanyikazi.
Kitu kingine mzuri sana ambao koti imeweza kusimama na imeweza kutoa uamuzi mzuri sana na kusimamisha KRA kuzidi kutoza makampuni ushuru zaidi.
Tumeanza kuona kama koti imeanza kuona maslahi ya mwananchi, kwa sababu ukiangalia ushuru ambao mwananchi ama mama mboga anaambiwa atoe ya 1%, na ukiangalia biashara yake ambao kwa wakati mwingi atakuwa anaingia hasara kwa mara mingi.
However, KRA says it plans to challenge the High Court ruling. In a statement, KRA says it respectfully disagrees with the findings of the court and will prefer an appeal to the Court of Appeal to challenge this finding. This is to ensure that KRA continues to review and improve on tax policies in order to reduce the tax burden while ensuring that every citizen contributes their fair share of tax.
Kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea there. Temporary reprieve there, especially for business owners. We will be keeping tabs on that. About 1.2 million Kenyans earn an average of 20,000 shillings monthly from online work, as among others, freelancers, writer, Access and Upwork platforms. Now, ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musharo says this has been made possible by an acceleration of private sector and government partnerships in absorbing the youth in digital jobs. Moshero is challenging more Kenyans to tap into the digital jobs market that is currently worth $2 trillion.
According to recent World Bank data, the ICT sector contributes about 17% of the gross domestic product in developing countries like Kenya. Coupled with a vibrant tech-savvy youth, the government has been tapping into the sector to grow the country's gig economy with digital jobs as one of its growth strategies.
Because our young people are many, we are within the Smart Africa initiative, where now we've got about 37 African countries together. And in the single digital market, we can lead. We have some serious companies that are already deploying the technologies that we need to be able to take us to the next level.
We have Program 3 that supports public sector created digital work through e-government initiatives, and that's where we're really doing a lot of work with judiciary. Program 4 seeks to engage the private sector in support of digital and online work platforms.
However, this has not been without challenges, with stakeholders saying digital literacy, varying purchasing power, among others, as being some of the barriers to a vibrant digital job sector.
Lack of skills to take part in some of digital platforms at 52%, and lack of access to Wi-Fi connectivity, access to internet, prohibitive cost of internet, family barriers, women being the primary caregivers, cultural barriers, cyberbullying, lower internet usage skills.
According to the just launched digital study on digitally enabled work in Kenya, through programs like the Ajira Digital Program, digital workers are now paid hourly at an average of 2,000 shillings per task or 20,000 shillings per month.
This particular national study on digital and digitally enabled work and awareness of the Ajira Digital Program helped us understand the momentum, the progress that has been achieved, but also by talking to youth specifically will help us make actionable steps to iterate and improve the program.
At the same time, in order to absorb more digital jobs, Konza Technopolis has set business development, knowledge economy and innovation, and smart city services as the three pillars of its newly launched 2021-2025 strategic plan. The Technopolis so far has 50 parcels of its land under discussion and 10 parcels under surveillance as its development of vertical infrastructure, which includes hotels, schools and social amenities, gather space.
We are now at cruise level, and we are destined to great successes. In this regard, the strategic plan is themed as accelerating the impact of Konza Technopolis.
We cross over to matters sports, where Kenya thrashed Somaliland 5-2 at the ongoing Africa Deaflympics Ball Games qualifiers in a clash to determine the 9th and 10th position at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani. The winner of that 12-team qualifying tournament will clinch a slot to represent Africa at the 24th edition of the Deaflympics scheduled for December in Brazil.
Kennedy Kilonzo opened the scoring for the Kenyan team in the 14th minute before Philip Kirui added a second 10 minutes later. Somaliland made efforts to score one but did not utilize the chances created well. In the 36th minute, Mwinde Mweu added a third, forcing a 3-0 halftime lead for the Kenyan team. After the halftime break, Bashir Yahe added a fourth, but Somaliland scored the first goal in the 76th minute through Hamed Siad. Gaspar Situa converted a penalty, making it 5-0, while Hamed Siad added a second for Somaliland. With the final score 5-2, Kenya settled for the 9th position, with Somaliland taking the 10th position.
Now, just to remind you that Shujaz there took silver from the Vancouver Sevens, and their technical team is all focused on, gaining more strength and, doing better at the Commonwealth Championship there that is slated, or rather upcoming championship there. Now, the national women's basketball team staged an impressive comeback to beat Cape Verde 61-58 in the second game at the FIBA AfroBasket in Yaoundé, Cameroon. The Lionesses, who won Top A, had lost their first match in the competition, going down 74-50 to host Cameroon.
Kenya trailed 33-28 at halftime, but rallied in the last two quarters to pick their first victory in Group A and revitalize their hopes of progressing.
Tieno, good pass into the post. Akinyi can't close it out. She gets her own rebound, puts it back up. And Christine Akinyi gets up on the scoring board. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Fernandes to Leitao. Leitao with a dribble jumper. Yes, at the buzzer.
US-based forward Victoria Reynolds was Kenya's best player in the game, amassing 17 points with 5 rebounds and 5 assists, while Christina Akinyi contributed 14 points. With under 2 minutes left to play, Kenya were trailing 54-56 before Mercy Wanyama was fouled and swung in both her free throws to tie the game at 56 ups. However, Cape Verde went back to the lead with Onela Livramento's layup, adding a further 2 points before Christina Akinyi leveled the scores at 58-58. Selena Okumu swung in one of 2 free throws awarded after a foul by Cape Verde's Mona Lisa Mendes, with the other one bouncing off the rim. With Kenya leading the tie with a half basket, an in-form Akinyi would take Kenya's tally to a 3-point gap with a well-taken jump shot. The Cape Verde girls pushed in the fight to make up the 3-point gap. However, it was Kenya who were playing the more smart way, finally sealing the win 61-58.
Wakenya wenzangu, nashukuru kwa support ile mmetupatia. Zidi kutupatia hiyo support. Sisi tutazidi kung'ang'ana hapa kucheza na ushindi tutawaletea.
Well, in ladies, now another Kenyan team made of ladies volleyball team, and that's the Malkia Strikers, jetted back into the country yesterday evening after their quest for a record 10th African title was put on hold Sunday night, losing by 3-1 against defending champions Cameroon at the Kigali Arena in Rwanda. Despite the loss, Kenya will be among the 2 teams representing Africa in the next year's World Championship in Netherlands.
Malkia Strikers had earlier lost by straight set to the Central Africans and were unable to redeem themselves in the final despite forcing the game to a 4th set. Malkia Strikers had lost 25-21 and 25-23 in the first 2 sets before rallying for a 25-15 win in the 3rd set. However, they could not complete the comeback as they fell short in the 4th set, losing 25-23. Sharon Chepchumba, the best attacker in the tournament, scored a game high 21 points with 4 aces, but her contribution wasn't enough for the Paul Bitox girls. Kenyans Esther Ekaru and Massimo Imu were named the best blocker and best receiver respectively.
Well, in ladies, now focusing on local football, is that rising AFC Leopards star Brian Wanyama has been selected as the Leopards fan choice of player of the month, alongside goal defender Philomen Otieno. Wanyama, who has put on a strong performance since his debut against Kariobangi Sharks in May this year, was ecstatic to be named Player of the Month by Ingwe fans, promising to replicate his standing out performance next season. On his part, Kogalos Otieno, who joined the former champions from Ushuru FC in 2017, has been a regular starter, playing a key role in Goro's qualification for the CAF Confederations Cup.
Haijakaa rahisi na sijanini peke yangu. Inaweza idetikitia tu kwa timu nzima tu. Imekuwa timu nzima na tuna look forward to next season. Hizi tumesahau. Tujaribu tumalize position poa hata ikiweza tubebe ligi.
Personally, I'm humbled to receive this award, and mine is just to thank my fellow players and our technical staff, because without them I couldn't make it. So now I give thanks, and this is not just my award, it is for the whole team. Yes.
Well, that brings a cap to Matters and News. Remember, you can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. But do not go away. We're going to be sampling what various dailies have prepared, or rather have given prominence in not too long, as well as just taking a look at how our roads are looking like. But before then, let's take a quick breather. We'll be right back.
named Luke used to live here.
Whatever. Gather all the guards and take care of it. If the intern Debo finds out, this could end up getting very ugly.
She even secretly poisoned and killed my mother. It was Wang Zhen who helped find my mother's will.
2 people are dead now. I'm a killer. I can't let more people die.
You're just a girl. You're not qualified to discuss state affairs. Ridiculous.
I wanted to tell you that I hired Cassandra.
Then kill me first. You have to kill me. I can't let you kill Moonlight, Daddy.
I don't understand why everything has to be done your way, Deborah.
Don't you understand this isn't the right moment to talk?
Deborah! Tell me already. What is this about?
Please help me, Mom. Oh, please help me. Oh, please help.
Entrégale toda completo, olvídame ser, más olvida el temor. Dame la llave.
Welcome back to the program. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Before we get to in the headlines, time to just take a quick look on how our roads are looking like. And like I said this morning, we will be focusing on what is happening along Wayaki Way. And this is because there are 2 projects on this route. There's what you obviously know and what is still currently happening. That is the expressway beginning from Lolongo area along Mombasa Road, coming all the way, cutting through various roads. That specific expressway terminates at this area. This is along James Gishuru Road. Just along this area, it's where the expressway terminates. It's still an ongoing project, expected to end by January, February, perhaps latest March of 2022. And the same route has also been earmarked for the bus rapid transit system here in Nairobi. And just like Thika Superhighway, it is one of those major roads. Quite a lot of, not even quite, just a lot of activities usually along this particular route. So this is why also it is one of those roads that this project will also be taking place. That is the bus rapid BRT. If you may. But currently we still have the expressway slowly taking shape along this route. So right now, just a quick look on the traffic flow, and we can begin from that area. That is the James Gishuru Road. As you head over there to areas of Lavington, as well as leaving those particular areas, coming to the city center, traffic building up on that specific lane as you head over to the estates there on that particular stretch, and also just at that intersection as you get to branch off through to Wayaki Way on that area as you head over to areas of Kikuyu Kino there, as well as also leaving those particular areas coming to the city center. But at least past the junction as you head over to the CBD, looks like things are opening up just a bit, and this is why we are seeing that green color, which is a clear indicator of that. So in as much as there's really a lot going on this particular route when it comes to that expressway, clearly looks like that is not really affecting traffic that much on this route. So perhaps what we will do in the next link up segment, we'll try to look at alternative routes if at all we will need to. But as of now, that is how the route is looking like in terms of traffic. Not that bad at just 34 minutes minutes past 7 a.m.
Fantastic. So let's go into the next piece here and do in the headlines. Let's just take a look at some of the stories that have been fleshed out for you on the front pages of your local dailies. And with me, I have the Star newspaper on the front page. Mount Kenya tough times in State House battle. Mount Kenya tough times in State House battle. Leaders working on a blueprint to be presented to all presidential hopefuls. That story continues in the newspaper. There you can take a look at that story. Equity in representation, revenue sharing, and political party pluralism are some of the demands that are being fronted by the Mount Kenya leaders, which is now a caucus now led by NAK Kenya party leader Martha Karua. Still on the front page, Deputy President Ruto to unveil his Hustlers blueprint next month. Deputy President Ruto to unveil his Hustlers blueprint next month. That is on the front page. And we have got pictorials there of Willie Kimani murder case. The accused now have a case to answer. These are AP Leonard Mwangi, Stephen Cheburet, and Frederick Leliman in a Melimani Law Court where they appeared yesterday, and Justice Lasit ruled that they have a case to answer. They have got their pictures there put there for you. Now, 5 accused of Willie Kimani murder case have a case to answer. Court says prosecution proved a prima facie case against them. The 4 police officers and a civilian accused of killing IJM lawyer Willie Kimani and 2 others now have the uphill task of proving their innocence. So Justice Lesit ruled that after going through all the evidence provided by the prosecution, she found that each of the accused persons had a case to answer. The case still continues. Ruto to unveil his Hustlers blueprint next month. The DP said that the agenda will carry the aspirations and wishes of Kenyans under the bottom-up economic model. This will then be consolidated into a charter to be formally unveiled early next year. Ruto, who spoke at the end of a 2-day retreat with politicians, professionals, and grassroots leaders from Ukambani, said the Hustlers blueprint will be a binding agreement between Kenyans and his government if he succeeds President Uhuru Kenyatta in the next year's presidential poll. And quickly on health matters here, only facilities giving 500 jabs weekly to stock Pfizer vaccine. In addition, the duration of travel from the regional stores to the vaccination center will also be taken. Center should not take more than 7 hours. On Friday, Kenya received 795,600 Pfizer doses of the expected 1.4 million donated by the U.S. government under the COVAX facility. Now, another consignment of 1.2 million doses is expected to arrive in the country in the coming weeks. Now, there's that story there of that Muslim cleric who was the scholar who was abducted. So, freed Muslim scholar confused says that he could sleep for 3 days. Scholar Abdi Wahab Sheikh Abdi Samad is back to his family in Nairobi after being abducted on September 8th. The 55-year-old Somali citizen was released on Sunday to his family. People who spoke to him says that he feels confused and exhausted, but he's grateful that he's free. He was abducted at about 10 a.m. as he left his car and walked to a hotel on Tubman Road near City Market on Nairobi CBD. He was taken out of Nairobi, and he said that he did not know where he was taken to. Now, the scholar was reportedly asked a number of questions again and again to, that's according to him. He also said that he's the executive director of the Institute for Horn of Africa Strategic Studies and an analyst at Southlink Consultants. He has commented on power struggles between Somalia President Mohamed Farmajo and Prime Minister Mohamed Robe. So according to him and according to the intelligence, the questioning involved terrorism and money laundering to finance it. He was also shown men's pictures and asked if they contributed in instability in Somalia. He was also asked about land he bought in Karen, according to sources close to him. So we are just getting, the nitty-gritties of what happened during his abduction, but he says that he's happy he's back to his family. I'll tell you what Mount Kenya leaders are trying to play, and the story says that Mount Kenya leaders play hardball on aspirants eyeing regional votes. I will give you more details as we continue with the program. Jen.
Right, let's now come to the Daily Nation. Not too busy today. We start with the story here on the header concerning abductions that have been on an upward trajectory in the recent past, and now the question is, why won't victims say a word about their captors? This is something that has been noticed in a number of abduction cases where some people are abducted, they go missing for a month or two, then their abductors willingly release them, but the victims do not say a word about their captors, where they were, or what they went through during that period, in an effort to try and create more awareness and to assist the authorities. Now the question is that most critics are asking is, why won't victims say a word? And this is also in line with the most recent abduction that happened to businessman Abdul Hakim. Abdul Hakim, who was abducted, was missing for about a month before he was released at will by his abductors. His family and friends and even lawyers are yet to disclose any details about the 1 month captivity that he was under, and there has been multiple appeals through the media for the release of the information, but nothing has come forth so far. So what really is going on in regards to these abduction cases? Moving on to some politics, UDA preparing for the big test, which has been termed as the litmus test, as they prepare for the grassroots elections in the coming month, a time where they will have to prove a lot. Number one, in some areas, they will have to sort of show that there isn't any favoritism going on among those that are allied to the deputy president. And a key area that has been actually highlighted is in Nakuru, between the factions of Senator Susan Kihika and Bahati MP Kimani Ngunjiri, to just show that no one is being favored when it comes to these grassroots elections. Then there another challenge that they are hoping to not have to face is the infiltration by spies that are either going to use this time to get information as moles or disrupt the elections as they will be underway in the next month. Activity that might trigger a fallout in the UDA party. Coming to the main read on the front page of the Daily Nation, return of the Iron Lady. Love that picture of Martha Karua right there. Return of the Iron Lady. She has been out of elective office since 2013 and successfully challenging Migori's election back in 2017. But now, Miss Martha Karua is set for an influential role in the succession of President Kenyatta. As the race continues to heat up, she has been endorsed as the official spokesperson for the Mount Kenya Unity Forum as of yesterday. So we are going to be giving you more details as these stories have been covered here on the different dailies. Doreen.
21st September 2013, 8 years later, one of those dark days here in our country. That is because of the Westgate attack that took 67 lives and 175 were wounded. So even as we mark 8 years, there's a story here, an article actually to be specific, that highlights the tale of one Ben Mulwa, who did not watch this event as it unfolded, perhaps as most of us did, but was actually there, still has those wounds. How is he living? How is he reliving life? How is he picking up the pieces? That is what that particular article highlights. We also have the story concerning education, and this in regards to the CBC, where the parents lobby now wants to join that CBC case. That is the National Parents Association. We also had that particular story during the GMK news briefs, and now they are just backing CBC, of course, continuing to say that CBC is here to stay, and parents who are still perhaps in argument here and there, they need to embrace that. Also just trying to say, if perhaps you revert back to the 844 system, what happens to those children who are already in that system? That is those from grade 1 to grade 5 there. We again have the BBI as well as the fuel prices, which are actually going to be the top of the agenda as the House resumes. That is today. That is going to form a conversation, better still a debate, as the House resumes today. And again, ward representatives and also MCAs now reignite a conversation and a debate of renaming Mbagathi Way after the former premier, that is Raila Odinga. We've seen that, of course, across, whereby most roads, especially here in Nairobi, are named after prominent persons. Key in point like Wayaki Way, there's the Haile Selassie Avenue, there's the Agwex Codex. So there's now a conversation that is just also going to take shape in the House on whether or not to rename Mbagathi Way after Raila Odinga. And this is because of the works that he did, especially in between 2005 and 2006 when he was the Minister of Roads, and how instrumental at that time he was. So there's also that particular conversation there, as well as SMEs now score big as court quashes the new tax formula, that is the minimum tax there, which was declared unconstitutional as well as illegal by Justice Odunga. So a bit of a reprieve there for small and medium scale enterprises after that particular ruling. Ray.
Now, as we work towards, just bringing this to a close, just to give you an update on what you should be expecting from our news desk this morning, is that the National Assembly resumes today for the third part of this session. And this is after a brief hiatus to a full entry, with sittings scheduled to run up until December 2nd, when the House is expected to break for the Christmas holidays. Now, top on the agenda is going to be the NHIF bill that, forms top priority. And some of the issues that have been handled in this, some of the amendments that have been put there in this particular bill, also is the issue of the consideration of the facilities, or rather the medical facilities there, where there's a process of a bill making. Interest has been drawn to the proposed law by the health as well as the leader of majority party and other legislators. Where do you select this accredited facility? Why do you have only to choose one, and such? So we're going to be focusing on what is going to be happening in Parliament there. The NHIF bill, taking center stage in regard to that at a time when, Kenyans have been asking, we are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Why then does an NHIF pay for such? Those are the questions that we expect to be coming at the floor of the House when they resume Parliament this morning, and we have our whole crew ready on standby to just bring you up to speed with the live pictures from the August House there. Further on at 11 a.m., Health Cabinet Secretary will be appearing before the Departmental Committee of Health. That's the Departmental Health Committee at around 11 a.m. to just, answer to questions on matters of health as far as, handling the COVID-19 situation is concerned. Further on, we have an update of what was happening yesterday there, and this is a fire that, there was an fire incident at the Ofafa School, Ofafa Jericho, where now 32 students were taken to the Metropolitan Hospital. Out of this, 2 were evacuated to Avenue Hospital, 2 evacuated to the Meridian Hospital. 1 student sustained a fracture, while 3 students were taken to Jericho as well as other hospitals. No deaths have been reported. No burns, majorly smoke inhalation and such. Remember, we are going to be keeping tabs on this as well as other developing stories as we get them. Remember, further details are also available on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. I'm Regina Manyara, and I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
palpitations, a hernia causing the bladder to protrude through the abdominal wall are some of the complications Eliakim Mutati Ndegwa was born with 3 months ago.
Alipatwa na kutokuwa vizuri, akawa ako mgonjwa, alafu akawa anapumua sana.
His parents have been in and out of their local health facilities in Kiambu County since May 1st, 2021, when their son was born.
Hawezi kupumua mwenyewe, hawezi kufanya chochote, alikuwa tu anawekwa maji na oxygen kwa huo muda wote. Sasa ikafika mahali, ikawa sasa madaktari wameshindwa. Ikabidi sasa watutume Kenyatta.
At Kenyatta National Hospital, where he was referred from Kiambu Level 5 Hospital, Eliakim was diagnosed with large ventricular septal defect, VSD, a hole in the heart, severe pulmonary arterial hypertension, PAH, a condition that leads to increased pulmonary vascular resistance, and right ventricular failure and hypoplastic aortic arc, all the 3 conditions being heart-related. Unfortunately, his condition needed further evaluation, forcing the chief cardiologist at the Kenyatta National Hospital, Dr. Naomi Gashara, to advise the family to seek advanced medical attention for their child at the MYT Center for Children's Cardiac Care in India.
Sai mtoto amechelewa na inasemekana inaweza fanywa kwa muda kama mara 3 hivi, kwa sababu inatengenezwa mara ya kwanza, ya pili kabla hajafikisha miaka 3 na itakuwa imefanywa mara 3 ndio mtoto aweze kuishi maisha ya kawaida.
Heart disease, I think, is a disease where you get a problem. I can say you develop a complication in the heart, and you may have a challenge maybe in terms of breathing, in terms of there's no normal blood flow in the system of the body. There are several reasons which may cause a heart disease. First is the type of the lifestyle. Actually, the lifestyle of a person. For example, the type of food that we take, it really contributes a lot to the heart disease. So, what we drink, alcohol becomes the major issue of the same, because and the type of food developed a lot of fats that is in the heart. When then you get at the heart has a lot of fats, it means it cannot function very well because it has got a lot of fats. It cannot pump the blood very well. So the type of the food that we take, what we drink, it contributes a lot on the heart disease. Maybe if we can change the lifestyle of the type of the food that we take, it can help to the heart disease. For example, if taking you smoking, that is cigarettes, alcohol, the fatty foods, lack of exercise. So if we embrace the other way around, that means we embrace a lot of exercise, we embrace the type of the food we take, we avoid a lot of glycerol in the body, we avoid taking smoking, that is cigarettes, the type of the food we take, alcohol, we really reduce the heart disease.
Basically, heart disease, there are underlying factors that cause heart disease. It does not just come like that, like a heart disease. And in most cases, I can say it is lifestyle, the way you live, the way you eat, what you eat. At the end of the day, it will contribute to your health. And basically, according to me, heart disease is a lifestyle disease. Can be a lifestyle disease because I don't believe it's a hereditary. And therefore, when people have heart attacks, you will find this person maybe has blood pressure, diabetic, and those other underlying factors that they lead to heart diseases.
This is a disease that affects human beings based on lifestyle.
What I mean in lifestyle is that the kind of food that we people eat contribute to heart diseases. For example, the likes of cholesterol. I mean, eating food that is non-cholesterol free, that goes and cause damages in your body systems, giving you a heart problem, which may end up to maybe a
Thank you for staying with us this far. This still is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jane Wamboi. In case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. We appreciate that you have chosen to continue with us here on Good Morning Kenya. Remember, you can always interact with us, check in and let us know where you are watching us from this morning. Use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. Our individual handles ever remain to be at Victor Olo, at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Arange, and at Jane Wamboi. We get started with the first conversation today, and this is Health Tuesday, and today we're going to be talking about contraceptives. This coming weekend on Sunday, we're going to be marking the World Contraception Day, a day that gets to create more awareness around contraceptive use. And today we want to narrow this conversation to the Kenyan space, look at how we are doing as a country when it comes to the uptake of contraceptives, as well as understanding the whole aspect of inclusion, and more particularly looking at persons living with disabilities. To help us with this conversation today in studio, we have Dr. Estella Waiguru, who is the lead officer of family planning under the Department of Family Health in the Ministry of Health. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for making time to be with us. I am well. How are you today?
I'm very well. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for making time. This is basically class 101 when it comes to contraceptives.
Let's go for it.
Awesome. Remember, questions, comments, clarifications, we welcome all of them in regards to this conversation. So let me just start with, I'm sure this is a question that you have interacted with along your professional path. Why are conversations around contraception very ish-ish? Like, we test the waters with our toes, or until you find yourself having an unexpected pregnancy, that's when you get to initiate these conversations around contraception.
Yeah, thanks, Jane, for that. I think that's a question that's heavy because contraception has some links to different aspects of our lives.
Yes.
Yeah? It's not only a health issue, but it also has some inclination or supposed myths surrounding, say, for example, religion.
Yes.
And you see, anything touching religion is touching the heart of someone, you know. So therefore, contraception, having these hands and tentacles into different aspects of our lives, becomes dicey to discuss and difficult to understand with these things in the background.
Yeah.
That, to my understanding, is the reason why contraception is difficult to talk about.
But from a professional medical standing, don't you think this is a bit rather misguided, looking at the health implications that lay on the other side?
My friend, I cannot begin to tell you how much contraception is significant in the health of the family, the woman, and it has implications on the man too.
Yes.
You know, we can't leave him behind. So the woman, the children, the general family, and now the population as a whole will be affected by the use or not using contraception. To say that contraception is about ensuring that every child who comes into the family or comes to the lady, woman of reproductive age, is wanted. Now, when we are not using contraception, we are going to experience effects of, say, for example, pregnancies that may not have been planned for.
Yes.
Therefore, may bring complications. We may experience pregnancies to persons who may not necessarily be ready for them, psychologically and otherwise. Therefore, cutting this person off from ongoing processes that they should be continuing, Jane. So this is a conversation that we have to talk about, and I really appreciate KBC for having our conversation on contraception this morning.
Trust me, I know that whole being taken out from what you considered normal and having to deal with an unexpected pregnancy. We always casually talk of how firstborn wengi, they're oops babies. And then after you have the oops baby, that's when you start having conversations around contraception. But now looking at this term contraception and contraceptives, what really does it encompass? What does it cover? What does it mean for the benefit of our viewer?
So contraception is mainly for health practices, going to discuss about using medications or medical devices to, let's say, prevent pregnancy, in quotes, pregnancy, and this is voluntary. The lady has to agree to do it, and there is a male component too. And so the male also, before using any of the contraception available, has to agree to it. So that's the main reason for, or the definition of contraception.
Contraceptives, all in line with planning for family, as the word family planning would suggest.
For sure.
All right. Now, when it comes to the options that are available in the Kenyan space, from what you have interacted with, from a medical standing, how are we looking? What are the options that are available for both men and women when it comes to family planning and contraception?
So thank you for that question. It's a good question, because if we know what's available, then we can be able to make an informed choice.
Decision,
So we have contraception that takes a short time to act, in terms of the effect of the drug will be short, and there are others where the effect is longer, and there are others where the effect is deemed permanent. So for the short ones, we have most common, maybe to the knowledge of many, is oral contraceptive pills, which are taken every day at a certain time, prescribed by a doctor, and there are precautions before you start taking oral contraceptives, and those can be used, and they're used every day for a specific period each month, and you keep replacing. And there are others which are one hormone drugs, as opposed to oral contraceptives, which are two hormone drugs, and those ones are also taken every day, prescribed as well. So then we are looking at, because I know we are limited for time and the conversation is long, I won't make this a medical class, but I will say those are oral for taking in. Then there are those for injections. I've left barrier methods for last.
We will get to that.
I'm coming to that, Jane. I can just see it in your face. So we have injections, and those ones take a bit longer. So you can get an injection now, and then the next time you get is after 3 months. I want to input here to say this is the most popular method in Kenya. It takes up more than 50% of the methods used for contraception in our country.
Recommended or preferred?
It is preferred.
Okay.
For now, we deem it to be preferred, but there are very many factors that contribute to the choice of contraception. Again, this topic is...
It's very wide.
It's wide. But for now, that is what we know. It's more than 50% of women in Kenya prefer.
Okay.
Let's use that word.
Yes.
Prefer to use injectables. So then we go into things like implants.
Now the implant is still on the short-term category or the mid-term category?
Now we are in the relatively mid to long. Because it goes to 3 months and a bit beyond.
Okay.
So that one, you'll get a small implant put in your arm, for example, and it'll keep releasing small amounts of hormones into your system, so that it regulates the hormonal function of your system and prevents, for a majority of time, prevents pregnancy.
I like that disclaimer. For a majority of time, that is a very professional. In case you get pregnant, don't blame me.
No, Jane, please be easy on us, because medication has effects, and sometimes the effect may not be as expected.
Yes.
So then we go into devices that can be placed in the lady's uterus. Yeah, small devices that look like a T. Once placed there, there's one that can produce a certain hormone every month, therefore prevent pregnancy. And there's another one that doesn't produce hormone but also can prevent pregnancy. So we are going into the very long-term methods, yeah, before we get to the barrier methods.
Yes.
So the long-term methods are like, you know how people say you get your tubes tied? That's for the ladies. And for the guys, they get vasectomy. So those are relatively permanent. I say that to mean that sometimes, you know, it can fail. Sometimes you'll get pregnant because nothing, of course, is 100%.
100% foolproof.
So then we go into the barrier methods, which is a bit easier to stomach. Why? It's you use it when you want it, how you want it, but it also has a success and failure rate. Yeah, the success rate based on how the person is going to use it, the failure rate based on the same, and the circumstances with which surround
the
this
particular situation.
Yeah, the particular situation.
Okay, now when it comes to which choice of contraceptive to use, why is it important to consult a medical practitioner, an obstetrician or gynecologist? You'll give us the proper terminologies or the proper medical practitioner to advise when it comes to the choice of contraception. Hey, my Kikuyu tongue, please do not show when it comes to choosing these contraceptions.
Now, you see, Jane, we are talking about medication that's going to alter the way your body functions normally. Regarding hormones, you know, pregnancy, I want to say this, that pregnancy is a situation that has a balance of hormones in the body that are facilitating the process and therefore contributing towards someone getting pregnant.
Yes.
Leave alone the physical part of it, yeah? Within the body of the lady, it's hormones that are working to send messages, receive organs in the body, receive messages, and send messages to facilitate pregnancy.
Yes.
Now, what contraception does is comes in and alters somewhat the messages by allowing for a certain amount of hormones, which are artificial, to go into the blood to change the way the messaging is going, so that the message now reads, don't get pregnant, as
You're
opposed
not getting
to
pregnant.
Yes, exactly.
No pregnancy allowed.
I hear you, girl. As opposed to get pregnant at this time of the month, yeah, during the lady's fertility period. So some of these hormones, for example, with regards to oral contraceptive pills, they have estrogen. Allow me, please.
Yes.
It's just a hormone. We can even call it E. Estrogen.
Miss E.
Yeah, Miss E. Miss E has particular effects on the body that need to be taken care of with people who are over the age of 35 years, with people who have had conditions where they've had clotting, you know. You've had people having clotting in the legs and having to take some medication because of that. Those ones need to be cautious. Or people who have, for example, history of breast cancer in the family. It's not impossible to take them, but you need to be under a watchful eye and you need to be aware of what your risks are.
Your history also.
So, yes. So, who you need to get this advice from? Yes, obstetricians, obstetrics and gynecologists. That's one specialization. Those are ultimate consultants in this regard. And of course, in medicine, you have fertility specialists, etc., etc. But what the ministry has done is brought the knowledge down to the level of everyone, you and me, and even people at home, you know, in the village and wherever, so that when you go to the facility, you will get counseling from a medical practitioner. Doesn't necessarily have to be an obstetrician, obs and gyn, because they are few and they're not everywhere. They're not as accessible as
To
the lower
a majority
cadres.
of the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the information is available even to the other cadres of medical professionals. So all you need to do is go to a health facility and they'll be able to ask you questions. You know, Jane, they ask you all sorts of questions.
Yes.
Not only questions about what I've described, but questions about where is your husband? Where is your partner?
If you're sexually active.
Yes. Is he aware that you're here? Would you like for him to know that you have, you know, used this contraception? So all sorts of questions will be asked. They may seem intrusive, but they're very key towards the choice of contraception you're going to use.
All right. Now that ushers us into the challenges and gaps that exist in the Kenyan space when it comes to contraceptive use. And I want us to start with myths and misconceptions that surround contraception and family planning in our Kenyan space. Let's start with now I have come across so many. Maybe let's start with from what you have gotten to interact with. What are some of the misguided myths that really deter people from, you know, taking up a form of family planning or contraception?
Thank you, Jean, for that question. I think what I've interacted with on a one-on-one is that once you start contraception, something that, let's say, ladies really value is their monthly. The word to use is period. Their monthly period. That your monthly period will disappear and it will never come back. That's not true. It may alter in pattern, but it never disappears forever. Once you stop, it comes back. Okay? So that's one of the easier myths to manage.
To deal with.
Yeah. The other myth that we have to manage is that contraception is now into the religious aspect. It's evil. I will say that contraception is a science and it's based on practice and the results for which can be verified scientifically. So when we are talking about good and evil, I may not be in the religious arena, but I know that science really speaks of God's power over knowledge of the everyday. So other myths may include things like all contraception is what do you call this? Is carcinogenic. Not necessarily true. I've spoken about women who are prone to cancer, breast cancer, should take precaution when using oral contraception. Yeah. Other myths, maybe Jane, you have a few?
No, there's one that to some extent it has some medical backing or science backing to it, but this is the concern around weight gain and weight loss for most women who take up the hormonal type of contraceptives. Maybe you could just clear the air around that.
Especially for the oral contraception, it can give you some semblance of weight gain. And I'm saying this with a lot of caution.
Yes.
Yeah, because even as it produces weight gain, there are other options, you know. It isn't the only option. And just because it's a side effect of one of the drugs, you shouldn't condemn everything. I mean, just now I mentioned about 9 methods of contraception.
Yeah.
Some invasive and some you don't really have to go to hospital. You can just buy over the counter, right? So there are very many ways of getting contraception done. Not necessarily one or the other. And if you've experienced side effects with one, speak to the medical practitioner and they'll be able to advise you on which other one that you can use. Don't stay away because of one method and one side effect, which really we should not belabor about. Let's move to the next one, because there's a reason why you're taking contraception.
This is why it's important to consult a medical practitioner and understand the options that are available. And of course, also looking at your history, that would help determine. Now, another one, as we get to move on from myth and misconception, is that it can cause infertility after prolonged use of the hormonal ones especially.
That's an interesting one. You know, what happens normally is when it works for you, you stick to it.
Nayo.
So my advice would be, consult and have a medical practitioner weigh the options with you. The decision will never be made for you. My emphasis on contraception is the fact that this is a voluntary thing.
Okay.
Never should someone force you to use any sort of contraception, medical practitioner or otherwise, my friend. And so, because that's related to your right as a person. So you'll find that if someone is taking contraception by compulsion, that goes into another realm of conversation that is infringing on your rights.
Sexual and reproductive rights and all.
Yeah, Jane, and that's dicey enough, you know. That's dicey enough. So we are saying key word from here, there are many methods. They are all voluntary, and you should get medical advice before you begin. And as you continue using the method of contraception, continue to interact with the health professional who will give you guidance in accordance with what your body reacts to.
Okay. Now, I've just received a message in regards to that particular last point concerning infertility, and they're seeking clarity. She's saying, I will not disclose name. She's saying that on the issue of infertility, I was told if you are on the long-term contraceptives, you need to take a break in between to just ensure that the normal functioning of your body is allowed to check in before you continue.
You see what I mean? You are always in touch with a medical practitioner.
Yes.
Nobody should use the hormonal methods over the long term without being in touch with a medical practitioner. Now it's time to give yourself a break. And there's something about this that we need to understand. The reason that there are different methods of oral contraception and the period for which they take effect is because of exactly that the side effects can be monitored and tapered down. So if you know that you are going to be you are not expecting to have children for the next 5 years, I would anticipate that you would not go for the oral contraception, that you would go for something long-term. For example, the intrauterine device that has effects for years.
This is why each form has a certain timeline associated to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that choice is informed to say that the oral ones, considering the side effects and the risk of pregnancy, I call it risk, risk of pregnancy, I would not go for the oral one. I would rather go for the intrauterine devices. They are not painful. They take minutes to put into the woman's body, into the uterus, and therefore they would be a good option for the person anticipating not to have children over the longer time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the advice you've been given, well, it's true.
All right.
But there's also more advice you need to get.
That needs to be added.
Yeah, that needs to be added. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to use contraception.
Yes.
And let me tell you something else us ladies also do. Jane. Hey, Jane. I've been using. I did. I went.
Even he said yes.
We get a lot of advice from one another.
Yes.
That's beautiful because it's a good consultation, and even in the spirit of mental health, it helps us ease off, any stresses that we may be having. But it may be biased. One, to the lady. Two, to the lady's circumstances, who is telling you these things, yeah? So it's important that we get the right advice at the right time, in the right place, and over the right
professional.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, that moves us to the next challenge, and this is now in regards to the age factor. We are living in a time where we are seeing younger people, some getting pregnant, others openly engaging in sexual activity and disclosing this information. And there seems to be no like guiding walls and boundaries around the age at which contraceptives are recommended. A while back, there was a lot of conversation around introducing contraceptives to the teenagers. One side of the divide saying you're encouraging promiscuity and early sexual activity, and the other side saying, listen, we're just helping them understand their sexuality and, pro-choice. The age factor debate.
I like how you've introduced it, but this is such a serious conversation right now, because we've experienced as a nation a point in time when we've seen, serious levels of teenage pregnancies. Yeah. Remember, when I'm using the word serious, I mean for every person, every girl who's pregnant, it's serious for them.
Yes.
Regardless of whether they are 100 or 1,000, it's serious for the one girl who is pregnant. So that is a concern, and this is a factor that is plaguing our minds constantly. What are we going to do with our girl who is pregnant? We wish we knew. So there's that aspect.
Yeah.
Then an overriding aspect is constitution.
Children rights.
Children have rights, and you dare not overstep those rights. Yes. The other aspect of it is because now we are experiencing pregnancies in teenagers, 10?
9.
9. Are we going to start then? The statement that I would want to say, and I'm saying it with these things in mind, these aspects in mind, is the best way to avoid pregnancy for these adolescents is abstinence. That's the one statement that we need to be very clear about. Abstinence is key. Then the other issue of access to contraception. If this adolescent was to be brought by the mother to the facility to receive contraception, a lot of counseling will be done to the girl. Probably she's being coerced into a life of sexual engagement, Maybe it's coercion. Maybe, therefore, the problem was not pregnancy. The problem was coercion. So let's address that. There are many girls who got pregnant through violence, defilements, rapes. So the issue here is the gender-based violence. Can we address it? Now, when push comes to my Kikuyu,
it is well. It is well.
When push comes to shove,
yes,
decisions will be made on the ground as is necessary. But I would want to say that the Constitution is clear. Adolescents are adolescents, and contraception is an adult conversation.
So for purposes of clarity, wherever adolescents and persons that are considered minors are involved in contraception, it is very circumstantial, and that is as and when it presents itself, that is when it is addressed.
It will be addressed then, and on a majority of times,
yes,
on the health professional side and on the Ministry of Health side, our statement is abstinence, abstinence, abstinence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that brings me to the next aspect, and this is borderline misuse of some of these forms of contraception. And this is actually also a point of concern that also coming from a male colleague who is asking, do people misuse contraceptives nowadays? And especially looking at the fact that some of these contraceptives are available over the counter without even needing a prescription.
Yeah. So I want to say that with regards to use of contraceptives, it's a systemic issue in terms of there are medications that are bought over the counter that shouldn't be bought over the counter. So that is an issue that has to be addressed. Then when it comes to like emergency contraception that people buy, you know, they call morning after pill. The misuse is, I think, rampant. Yeah, and it shouldn't be. And so when we are addressing misuse, we should address it holistically.
Okay.
Yeah, because for every woman who goes to the health facility to be advised on contraception, they will be given the appropriate advice by the health worker who is skilled and who is trained on it. And because of that training, she will be able to use this contraception appropriately.
Okay.
But when it comes to decision making now of the lady, yeah, as she's using the contraception, she's independent. She can decide, I'm using oral contraception and I don't feel like taking it today. Then you fall pregnant. You see, that's misuse because it was not meant to be used with you skipping days. That's misuse. Or let me step into another dicey area with contraception.
Yes, very briefly, due to the interest of time. I'm told we're almost out of time.
Okay. I think I should just... When you get an implant for 3 years, I mean, for example, or you get a mechanism that you go to the health worker and say, this is my preference, I want an implant, and I will stay with it for the next so many years, yeah? And then you go home, then there's a story about a swelling that developed on someone. You come back 1 month later and say, remove. That's misuse.
Okay.
So let's be careful with how we are interacting with the contraception, and let's get the right advice before we even initiate the process.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, just earlier on, you categorically indicated that contraception is mostly for the adult population.
Yeah.
And looking at this adult population, there's always this debate, should men be involved in the choice of contraception that a woman takes on? And this is for people that are in committed relationships or marriages specifically. All right. Looking at the male factor and the role of the man when it comes to the choice of contraceptives.
Fortunately, I am a lady and I will not speak to the choice that the man has to make, but I will speak to the choice that the woman has to make. Because she's the one, majority of times, who has to experience the use of contraception, she has to be very clear in her mind on what she wants.
Yes.
Now, as the husband or the partner comes into this conversation, it will be in form of, I want children, do not use contraception. That's one form of conversation. The other conversation is, I don't like the side effects that you're discussing, for example, weight gain, do not use, that kind of. So we are in a community. So of course men have to chime into the discussion of decision making. What I am saying is let the decision be informed. But then also, men, you have to know that even you guys have a choice to using contraception. Because even male condoms are available. I'm not only talking about vasectomy as a permanent method of contraception. So we are both in this. It is a relationship. Let's both be informed about our choices. Unfortunately, some of our societies and communities may not be giving so much room for the lady to speak.
All right. Now, as we draw this conversation to a close, looking at the fact that we will be celebrating the World Contraception Day, what is the message that you want our viewers to take on with them when it comes to conversations around accepting, or rather being open to talking about contraception and family planning, understanding the options available and knowing that access is there, and especially looking at what the ministry is hoping to do in line with all this?
Okay, so this Sunday is the 26th of September, and every year on the 26th of September is the World Contraception Day. This year, our theme is about leaving no one behind, expanding access to contraception in the COVID-19 pandemic period and beyond. Why? In the COVID-19 pandemic period, the contraception use went down for reasons that I think we can deliberate and debate over. But more importantly is the leaving no one behind aspect, where we are seeing persons with disability, for example, and other vulnerable groups unable to access contraception. We are saying now the conversation should be that the access should be across board, equitable across board, and the ministry is, of course, putting into play a lot of measures to make sure that the methods of contraception are reaching everyone easier and faster, and with informed choice involved.
Absolutely. So when it comes to choosing a form of contraceptive that you want to take on for family planning matters, be sure to consult a physician, a medical physician, or an individual with medical professional background to be able to help you make an informed decision, so that you can, side effects abound. Hakuna dawa hainanga side effects. Looking at the benefits outweighing the demerits that may come along with it. So make sure that you consult before you get to choose any form of contraception that you want to take on moving forward. Now we have to close this conversation at this particular point, but of course we are open to having subsequent conversations to build up on this whole topic around the use of contraceptives, and especially in the Kenyan space. But for now, we have been speaking with Dr. Estella Waiguru, who is the lead officer of family planning under the Department of Family Health in the Ministry of Health. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today.
Asante sana, Jean.
All right. We are not yet done. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of what we have lined up for you.
Usitegemee kupata jino lenye afya kwenye mdomo uliooza. Usikubali kupokea zawadi ya nguo kutoka kwa mtu aliyeuchi. Mapenzi ni kufaana, nifae ni kufae. Hisani ni njia mbili, nipe nikupe. Ila ni muhimu kufahamu kuwa sio binadamu wote watakushukuru hata watendeapo mema. Ukitaka thawabu kutoka mbinguni, we tenda wema tu, uondoke.
Ili kupata skiza tune ya pumzi ya busara, bonyeza star 811 star 815 hash. Bonyeza star 811 star 815 hash.
Uko tayari, lakini tahadhari maadui wako.
Huu mdomo wako umezidi sasa, tafadhali kasuku. Ndio maana pile kakukimbia.
Hivi ni vitu gani? Yaani muda huo wote nimeishi na wewe, unanizubaisha mimi na hivi.
Sina haja na wewe tena. Mimi ni mkeo na watoto wako wote wako kwenye viganja vyangu.
I wanted to tell you that I hired Cassandra.
Then kill me first. You have to kill me. I can't let you kill Moonlight, Daddy.
I don't understand why everything has to be done your way, Deborah.
Don't you understand this isn't the right moment to talk?
Deborah! Tell me already. What is this about?
Please help me, Mom. Stop Please help me. Oh, please help.
Entrégale toda completo, olvida reservas, olvida el temor. Dame la llave.
At exactly 35 minutes past 8 a.m. Welcome back to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya. Time for us to again check out how the roads are looking like. We are still focusing on Waiyaki Way, and the reason is just simple. There's a lot happening on this particular route today. It's simply because there's still that expressway ongoing in terms of construction. It terminates at James Gishuru along Waiyaki Way. That is one. That's why we are looking at the specific route, and also because it is one of those roads that has been designated for that bus rapid transit system. And the better part of this week, that is what we shall be focusing on, because it is a new project that the state is trying to come up with to try and see how best they can reduce the traffic flow. It has already begun taking shape along Thika Super Highway, and that is why we checked on that yesterday. So today we look at yet another road whereby this project has also been designated to take place, and this is Waiyaki Way. It hasn't started yet on this particular route, so it also forms one of those roads in Nairobi where this project will be taking place, because just like Thika Road, one of those busy roads, a lot of activities, companies, industries, a number of estates as well. So clearly one of those busy roads, and this is why, just like Thika Road, it has also formed part of those roads whereby this project or this kind of new system will be taking place. That is the bus rapid transit system. And like I mentioned, the better part of this week, that is what we shall be focusing on, BRT, to also try and better understand this kind of new system that is being developed by the state, how it's going to shape how it's going to shape how these roads are going to be looking like, and how it's going to altogether shape the face of Nairobi. So right now, we just quickly check the traffic flow on this specific route, and again we can perhaps begin from that area where the expressway terminates at. That is at the James Gishuru Road. Earlier on there was heavy kind of traffic on this specific route, especially as you leave areas of Lavington coming through the same slip road there, which is James Gishuru, just before you get to the other section of Waiyaki Way, and also as you get to branch off through Westlands Red Hill Link Road there. Again, heavy kind of traffic, but clearly right now things have changed. And again, this is why I keep saying all the time that traffic changes every single minute. This is how the road looks like, moving at a very swift pace, especially as you leave areas of Kikuyu, Kino, outskirts of Nairobi, coming through Waiyaki Way, past James Gishuru as well, past the Red Link Road, also coming through the Simpson section, all through on that particular lane of Waiyaki Way up until areas of Westlands, moving at a very swift pace. And that has been well necessitated by that green color there, which is a clear indicator of that. So in as much as there's a lot happening on this route, also when it comes to that expressway, clearly looks like that is not really quite affecting the road when it comes to traffic. And oftentimes we know that anytime there's an ongoing road activity, could be road works, constructions, expansions, rehabilitation of whatever sort, installation of footbridges, in turn this always affects the traffic on most of major roads. But on this specific one, that is not the case there, at least as of now, because from just what we are spotting, and the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes. So just clearly for our viewers coming from those estates that I've mentioned earlier, as well as areas from outside Nairobi, clearly again this is just the best time for you to perhaps leave your houses, if at all you are intending to, or if you are on the road, it's still a good time for you, because I mean, green all through, no traffic at all, moving at a very swift pace. Like I mentioned, also the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes of Waiyaki Way up until areas of Westlands. That is where traffic begins to build up, moving at a very slow pace. But again, also around this area there had been some bit of ongoing roadworks, especially around that particular roundabout as you enjoy into areas of parklands there. So that's perhaps also why the road is looking like the way it is, at least as of now. But again, past that area, as you head over to the city center, not that bad all through on that section of Wayaki Way, again past Westlands there, even before the areas of Westlands. So clearly along this route this morning, we did not look at any alternative routes, because on major parts of this route moving at a very, very, very swift pace. So again, just like I mentioned, regardless of the fact that there's a lot happening in terms of construction, and that is regards that expressway, but at least as of now, majorly along this route, barely any kind of heavy traffic, and that is how it's looking like in terms of traffic at just 39 minutes past 8. But again, obviously still remains a key road of focus because of that expressway, as well as the bus rapid transit system.
Hello there and welcome to People and Politics. You're still watching KBC Channel 1 here, and the show is Good Morning Kenya. Let's just talk about politics. As always, on Tuesday we delve into matters that affect you, and we just need to dissect them so that we can understand more on what they mean and what they portend for you as a Kenyan as well as a citizen, because you have all the right to have that information. Okay, so with me in studio, I have got Wakili Ken Amondi, who is joining us in studio. Wakili, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Pleasure.
And we have got Daniel Orogo, who is a political analyst here in studio. Daniel, karibu.
Good morning.
Good morning. You disappeared last week and you were asking yourself.
So many things happening in this country. Yeah, sometimes we find our way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just get into where we should start. It's political season, gentlemen. And by the way, no offense, it's men affair today. So there's no offense. We just talk about what happens now currently. The political season is, we can never talk about politics enough. We love to talk about it and discuss what's happening in the country. Mount Kenya is shaking, is continue to grow. Daniel?
Yeah, I think the issue about that voting area and had been quite interesting, and I think we've been deliberating about Mount Kenya in this panel for some time.
Right.
But I think it's not just being wished away because of the significance that it plays, especially in always deciding on how the country goes. So I think the stakes are high in a sense that some of the issues that they are talking about right now are quite issues that I see had been placed at some political discourses before. This is an area that is very interesting, that for the first time there is no a sprouting potential presidential candidate. I mean, there are, but who is capable of playing the figure at the national level to rally the community? So I think in the absence of that, the community and that constituency of voters are finding it difficult, especially who would then guarantee and safeguard their interest as they nurture somebody who will definitely have gravitas to vie and rally the community together. I hear the issues that the region is talking about, and they're very legitimate. I mean, each and every constituency in this country, each and every region would want to have a discussion and a discourse. What is the interest of our community when it regards to election? The 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Who safeguard our future political interest? Who safeguard our business interest and ventures? Who is he that would, make sure that revenues, trickle down to the people that it deserves? So I think the region is finding itself in away that some of their requests or some of their hopes that were laid in BBI and the BBI that is now going through political landmines and legal landmines. Right now, they are just trying to find out where would the interest lie.
Because I would assume that Mount Kenya is finding itself in a very tricky situation right now because they don't have a definite front runner in the next general election. So perhaps the whole of these demands are because they know pretty well that they don't have a somebody who's going to run for that political seat, the presidency. So perhaps whoever is going to run and rule them to go on their side must adhere to their demands. Wakili, is that the point at this particular point in time?
Yeah, of course, we have to bear in mind that, like we've always said in this show, first we are talking of politics.
Yes.
And politics is about numbers, and it goes without saying that given the significant numbers within the Mount Kenya region, we are talking of around 20% or thereabouts of the Kenyan voting bloc. So that's a region that cannot be wished away. Of course, secondly, we are also talking of the economic might of the region. You cannot also wish that away, so that when you combine that, the question of the numbers and the question of the economic the economic bloc, then from a political perspective, that is a very huge base which must be considered. Of course, there's also the question of the fact that this may end up being the first time maybe from independence that we are finding the region not presenting a formidable or a serious presidential candidate in a presidential election. That is from the multi-party time in 1992. So that then the next question would be that to whichever candidate that shall marshal this regional bloc, what is it that you have for us? And of course, it therefore behoves the leadership to then, in the course of negotiations, come up with what is it that serves best the interest of our people. And we are aware that one of the issues that has always kept cropping up amongst the leadership is the question of one person, one vote, which of course was properly addressed within the context of the the BBI document, and we find the leadership that is meeting right now, putting this as one of the core demands that they would really want to, be placed on the table in their negotiations with whichever candidate that they shall support. Of course, there is also the question of who is it that, the mountain shall revolve around? Who is that emergent leader that would take over from President Uhuru Kenyatta? And quite a number of names, of course, are cropping up. We have got the former governors. We have got the likes of the Iron Lady Martha Karua.
Actually, who's now been fronted as the spokesperson.
And that is really key. Bear in mind that in 2000, and I think it was 2013, when the late Minister Michuki came out clear that you want to negotiate with Mount Kenya, you have to go through Uhuru Kenyatta, and that is all. That's what became of it. We don't know if that will be the position right now, or courtesy of the enthronement of Martha Karua. We must also take note that there are other candidates also who initially were not that politically motivated. The likes of Jimmy Wanjigi, whose moves cannot be wished away, and who has made his forays throughout the country. Last week we saw him in Luoland, and the nature of reception and that he got from the populace in the ground, who got to feel that in this person we see some element of leadership, so that I think we are headed for interesting times.
Okay, there is this story which was done yesterday, and we had these leaders. We have got Martha Karua and the likes of the Kabogos and all that. Let's just get that story and hear what they had today after that meeting they had yesterday.
A group of leaders from the Mount Kenya region have softened their demands for 40% share in the next government, claiming they are ready to engage like-minded leaders with offers as they seek winning coalition partners. During a forum that brought together different factions, NA Kenya Party leader Martha Karua was appointed their spokesman with a mandate to engage other like-minded leaders for a winning formula.
This forum has today unanimously chosen the Honorable Martha Karua to be our official convener and our spokesperson.
The move coming after Gatondo South Member of Parliament had outlined a number of demands, including the post of a deputy president and 40% seats in the government for the region.
We have seen in the history of our country that monolithic parties become oppressive. The other issue is security of the person and property. And these, like the issue of democracy and multipartyism, are issues that actually apply to the entire country. But as a region, we have flagged them off as our priority issues. The third issue is the issue of representation. We want equity in representation. The fourth issue is equity in sharing of resources and development. And these are issues that apply to the rest of Kenyans.
Nobody should stop any community of interest to come together, see together, eat together, and articulate their issues. So that's all what we are discussing.
The interests of the mountain are paramount to ourselves as we think as Kenyans.
But another group in Kiambu says time for campaigns is not yet and wants leaders to cease from preaching politics of hate against the Jubilee Party.
Jubilee iko na Jubilee Kiambu iko timamu.
Of abusing others, giving false information because you want to join another party. We restrain that as a party.
Meanwhile, Kathiani Member of Parliament Robert Mbui has come out in support of bishops and churches over the recent move to bar politicians from the pulpit.
Okay, so that's what happened. The caucus already have chosen Martha Karua as the official spokesperson. The demands, some of them are equity in representation, according to Martha Karua, equity, revenue sharing, and political party pluralism. Some of these things were outlined in the BBI. Equity in sharing, equity in representation, and revenue sharing. Some of them were outlined in the BBI. And now, just to start with you, Daniel, it seems like Mount Kenya has made peace with itself that we don't have a candidate. So these are our demands.
The candidature, one of the things that a candidature guarantee a region is safety, is taking care of interest of that region, is de facto in spokesperson and having an interest of that region at heart. So in the absence of that, I think that is why we are seeing this kind of gerrymandering going on around. And like I said, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing for each and every region, because you cannot go to a negotiating table like an underdog, political negotiating table like an underdog. And just like Wakili has touched about, there is the significance of this region when it comes to, always making decisions in terms of even sharing the natural cake that we have. But right now, like you said, there's no front runner. So then what is the alternative? So the alternative is to have a strong coalition or a coalition of parties that are purely based on the interest of that region. And that then would become a negotiation chip for each and every meetings that they go. And I like it because, these have been forthcoming, and it seems that they are settling finally in terms of looking at their interests, first of all. And whether they are going to have a candidate or whether somebody is going to settle them as a deputy, their deputy. The issue is that now Mount Kenya has got an issue to have and to present in the political negotiating table. What I am worried about is by the fact that, you know, we've had a number of spokespersons in this region, spokespeople, you know, that then now who is who? Justin Muturi was just, you know, I think a few months ago, was installed by the Council of Elders, okay? Then Moses Kuria went out and said he's also the spokesperson a few days after that. And now I have seen him, you know, declaring that now it's Martha Karua.
But and you see, according to them, Martha Karua is the spokesperson of that caucus.
Not really caucus, but also I think at its goals, it's now taken care of. Now they're saying this is legitimate. You know, this is what the leaders of Mount Kenya are fronting as the de facto spokeswoman or a spokesperson that for the region. So Victor, I think this is one thing that is interesting in that region. It's good for political discourse, but I am worried if it goes long and long without them, or you know, settling for a unitary frontier to begin discussing on these issues. The other thing is now on the fate of the issues, because some of these issues were ingrained on the Building Bridges initiative, and therefore it means if there is an opening of a political discussion about them, it is not only that any person they are, you know, having a discussion with would just have this discussion in an empty shell. There needs to be a framework, you know, to inculcate some of these demands. Issues about revenue sharing. I mean, these are issues that are constitutional, that the counties will receive, you know, between 15 to 35%. And you see, it's not just something you can have on, and actually, you know, on a negotiating table, on a gentleman's agreement or a gentle people's agreement. There needs to find a structure, you know, that is constitutional, a framework that is legal to put them in. So I think I am worried because the demands or the request or the interest do not have a general framework, but it seems anybody that region would want to have a conversation with must begin to think how then would they, you know, put this interest into a framework that cannot be challenged legally or even politically.
My concern again, Wakili, is that when you have people like Moses Kuria, we have former CS Mongi Kiunjuri and the likes, coming together and saying that today we are going to form a caucus that anybody coming to seek for votes in Mount Kenya must come through us. When you look at these positions, for example, the issue of revenue sharing, the Council of Governors also raised that issue that they wanted it to be taken to Parliament for a debate. Because now the BBI is flopped, so they are going to lose certain amount of money, and this was going to be beneficial to the counties after all. How is it going to happen come 2022? That Mount Kenya doesn't have a front runner, and anybody going to negotiate with them must fulfill all this. Are we not going to have a hard nut to crack for all these front runners in 2022? For them to crack Mount Kenya?
I think on the basis of the last question, that the last issue that you raised, I would say that in respect of Mount Kenya and what has come out of that caucus, and apparently the caucus seems to appreciate leaders from both shades. By those shades, I mean there are some of those who originally gravitated so much around the deputy president and his cause, the likes of Moses Kuria, and then of course you have the former governors and Martha Karua on the other hand, who apparently happened to be in the, you know, the faction that was anti-BBI, as it were. Now, it seems to raise a clear scenario where, you know, it turns out that these leaders inwardly appreciate the fact that it would seem that the president, in pushing across the BBI initiative, which he had as his legacy, part of his legacy project, actually had Mount Kenya interest at heart. And you see that this needs to be looked at in the context of the perception that, you know, has developed all along, that, you know, it would seem that within the Mount Kenya region, the BBI project was seen as, you know, something which was an anathema in the region, something that was, you know, anti-people, because people were so much concerned about, I mean, it seemed not to address the economic issues.
So I tend to say that Mount Kenya is somehow not so happy that the BBI flopped entirely.
I mean, from what I'm hearing from the caucus,
yes,
then unless we are saying that, I mean, there's a sense in which the leadership are appreciating that, look, in as much as this might be the position in the ground, because, you know, there may be a disconnect between, you know, what the mwananchi in the ground is saying and what the leadership, who of course are privy to the facts and the data, know as what would be the best interest to the Mount Kenya region. So that it would seem that in the end of the day, they are realizing that, look, there may be a mistake somewhere. This actually ought to be the direction. Yeah.
Because look at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Equally, it could be important to provide an advice to the region. Some of these, demands might not be tenable. You know, even as we proceed. A few months to the general election, the fate of BBI seems, you know, we may not know how it ends because of the timelines, you know, the elections timelines and all these. There have been presidential candidates who have been having a discussion with Mount Kenya, you know, and on the issues they have been raising. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi had been there in that region for some time, you know, and I've met
over the weekend,
and I've met to discuss, you know, with these issues. Honorable Raila and equally William Ruto has been there, and I think I would when it comes to issues of trying to deal with the economy, it could be important for them to listen to the provision of Uchumi Bora. Listen to what Musalia Mudavadi is pushing in that area, because I think there are issues about revenue, there are issues about economy. I would ask that they would begin to listen and interrogate, you know, what these political leaders have, because even as we proceed, it could be untenable to have these conversations that are not grained in any, legislation as we speak. I think, and secondly, it bequeath the region. You know, let me say this. It bequeaths the region to determine the political future. This is a region that suffers at, many years when we had, only one political party ruling. And Wakili, you know that, Martha Karua has spelled out clearly that they do not want a monolithic political party, because the region knows very well what happens in the drama of multi-party democracy. One of their candidates suffered in the hands of an autocrat. I mean, Kenneth Matiba and the rest. And they also understand what happens when the country is one-party state. So I think I agree with Mount Kenya that it is bequeathing in us that you shouldn't. And not only Mount Kenya, any region right now would be very wary of any candidate who would want to collapse political parties and make this country a one-party de jure state. So I think this is one thing that we need to state here, that we are past that as a country.
In fact, let me just outline. During the proposed BBI, in the BBI constitutional change, the Mount Kenya was going to have a lion's share in terms of additional constituencies. Kiambu, Nakuru 5, Meru 2, Embu 1, Kirinyaga 1, Muraga 1, and Laikipia 1. And in addition, the BBI had also proposed increased allocation of counties from 15 to 35%, and entrenching the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote.
Exactly.
And that mantra that had been to be a rallying call for the region. Again, the group which also includes the party, the service party leader, that is Mwangi Kiunjuri, and his Chama cha Kazi counterpart Moses Kuria, also vowed not to fold their parties. So what does this mean? We are going as a party, not as an individual, because this happened during the formation of Jubilee Party, Jubilee Coalition, where so many parties were folded, and some of them perhaps you can say that some of them are regretting why they folded their parties, right? So, Wakili, Mount Kenya is somehow feeling the heat. That's why this caucus is now sitting down to iron out the missing link.
Yeah, in fact, on the question of what they are describing as a multiplicity of political parties.
Yeah.
And of course, I know that's a conversation that stems from the position that is coming out from the UDA, that look, we have to, speak with one voice. There's no question of coalitions. I also want to re-emphasize that in as much as there are certain arguments that has been peddled that look, we need to have one strong party to avoid, regionalism and name it. Like Rogo said at some stage, regionalism is not necessarily bad, right? And we also have to take note that even in other jurisdictions, take example, I normally like the example of Switzerland, one of the most, can I say, stable, actually the most stable democracy in the world, where they have got a system where the so-called cantons are so much strengthened, Cantons have their respective governments, more or less semi-autonomous, and if you look at their history, that is the basis of the stability that Switzerland has all along been known for. And that is something that was so, to some extent, domesticated even in our Constitution 2010, when we brought in the aspect of devolution. So that, in a sense, we may have these regional governments which are expected to become effective and strong, so that we even forget about the notion of an imperial presidency. In fact, let me say that I always believe that if the mindset of the framers of the Constitution 2010 was actually put in place, then as of now, we would not be having debates about who would be president, because, governors would be doing marvelous works, and people would be comfortable. If you are in Nairobi, then the issue should be who would be the next governor of Nairobi.
The next president.
That would be the issue in, in Kisumu, Kirinyaga, name it, Mutua, but somehow it has not, gotten traction in Kenya. But now, to go back to the issue at hand, let me say that the position in respect of political parties is one into which we really have to support the Mount Kenya region, and I believe also throughout the country. Why? Because it is through a multiplicity of political parties that we have, you have a sense in which you will have different ideas being presented within the general political discourse. Yes. So that is one thing that needs not be compromised.
Okay. Daniel, just, we're going to take a break, but then, why Martha Karua? The Iron Lady. In fact, on the front page of the Daily Nation, Wakili, it says the
Iron Lady.
The Iron Lady. Why Martha Karua? We saw she was so instrumental during the formation of Kibaki's government. In fact, some people used to refer Martha Karua as the only man
that remained standing
in the Kibaki cabinet. And now she's been quite quiet, and now she's back again. And now she's been made the spokesperson of that caucus. Why Martha Karua? Perhaps you can just answer that question when we come after this break, so that we need to discuss why Honorable Martha Karua, the Iron Lady, is back. Okay, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more as we discuss people and politics. Stick around.
lakini tahadhari maadui wako.
Huu mdomo wako umezidi sasa, tafadhali kasuku. Kana ndo maana pile kakukimbia.
Hivi ni vitu gani? Yaani muda huu wote nimeishi na wewe, unanizubaisha mimi na hivi.
Sina haja na wewe tena. Mimi ni mkeo na watoto wako wote kwenye viganja vyangu.
Somebody with the name Lou used to live here.
Open the door! Whatever. Gather all the guards. And take care of it. If the intern Debo finds out, this could end up getting very ugly.
She even secretly poisoned and killed my mother. It was Wang Zhen who helped find my mother's will.
2 people are dead now. I'm a killer. I can't let more people die.
You're just a girl. You're not qualified to discuss state affairs. Ridiculous.
Try your best just to meditate till it quick, Lord. Oh man, not telling her to dance. I'm a ding. Papa me chicken. Tell her say the glory. Glory to the master. Come on, help me shout this name. Can we push out free? Free. We got to be free.
Hallelujah be to the Most High God for giving me strength to praise His name. I'm gonna preach the gospel of God.
I must apologize, 'cause I'm so sorry to treat you so cruel. All whoever's wrong, see I was only playing.
Welcome back. So we're just having this conversation here behind the scenes, and it's fun. Okay, it's all fun. Politics doesn't have to be that serious. Okay, so before we went on a break, I asked this question: why Martha Karua? Daniel, go for it.
Because she has once stood with her political party. Ever since, you know, there was a breakaway from Kibaki's government, Martha has been consistent in terms of propagating her ideology, speaking her own mind, and standing for what she believes in. The Honorable Martha Karua had served and is so experienced when it comes to political negotiation at crisis times. So I think this is the value the caucuses are placing. One, in terms of seniority, experience, and by the fact that she's also a woman who, you know, has not only run against, you know, these whims and tides of political quagmire, but has stood her ground. And I think we were just discussing a while ago that in the offing, you know, on the chaos that were at KICC in 2007, you know, the only person who stood and was really visible, politically visible, to defend PNU government at the controversial 2007 political election was one Martha Wangari Karua. And I think this, it's impetus, it's a value that the team cleverly thought to place her at a point where she would really negotiate for issues of, you know, of Mount Kenya and Central Kenya. I would also like to add, you know, that if there is a person who really understands, you know, what the region needs when it regards to political democracy and when it regards to advancing of interest that are palatable to the people of Central Kenya, is, Martha, quite defender of justice, experience in the corridors of justice and law as a magistrate for some time, as a political leader, and as a cabinet secretary, as a cabinet minister by that time. But I think wherever there are merits, we must also say there are demerits. And as you've seen, the headlines have splashed, and they're saying that the return of, an iron lady. But then, Victor, I think there are demerits in this headline. One, because in a political discourse and negotiation, nobody would want to have someone who is seen to be a hardliner.
Yeah.
And someone who is seen to be non-flexible. And, this would definitely work against it, because one, I think, is the fear that she is an hardliner.
Yeah.
And secondly, that, she scares by what she says and what she stands for.
But perhaps because of also her legal
yes, I think
background
her legal background,
right.
And that's why I'm saying her experience by default, places her at a point where she is a value to the caucus, but also she might also be, having some elements that are not really well with the outsider. But more importantly, in the event that Honorable Anne Waiguru is slowly drifting towards the deputy president, then the Mount Kenya caucus is working for an option. It might not be Kirinyaga as well, but the face is similar, that all this region, that we are having someone who is a replacement, to Anne Waiguru. Because Anne had been sometimes, was seen also as sprouting to be, having a very strong grounding.
In fact, sometimes last week she said that she's been receiving several proposals for her to be the running mate.
Of different presidential candidates. So I think this is cleverly crafted to make a statement that, you see, Mount Kenya, even as others might be drifting towards UDA,
we still have options.
Of course, we still have options that are much value and much, can still steer the community forward. So I think this is the reason why Martha is proposed to be the spokesperson of the caucus.
Let me ask the same question to Wakili. Why Martha Karua? She's a legal mind, very strong, very stable. Why Martha Karua?
I think I would look at Martha Karua from two perspectives.
Right.
First, of course, is the fact that we still have people in this nation who believe that, you can have a stand in respect of justice, and you don't waver from it, no matter what. I think that is the picture that Martha Karua presents. If you look at his tenure within the cabinet, you would expect, like happens, the ordinary trend in Kenya. Someone gets that sort of an opportunity, and the next thing you hear is obscene wealth. Martha Karua does not seem to be that sort of a person. She is just there for do what is right, and with the belief that over a long period of time, of course, people might, treat it in jest, say whatever they like, reject you in this election here and there. But in the end of the day, there is a sense in which people come to reflect and say, look, there is someone here. I think that is Martha Karua for me. Secondly, in the context of, the Mount Kenya politics, we need to bear in mind that, the true Martha Karua came out in 2007 in respect of defending the PNU government after the controversial election.
But then she was the Gishugu Member of Parliament.
Yes.
Right.
And there was a sense in which, subsequent to that, because the question then arose, because that then was the second and final term for President Mwai Kibaki. So that, the setup was already being crafted in terms of succession. And there was a question of the deputy prime minister, for those who can recall. And of course, there were those who felt the same ought to have been gifted to Martha Karua, but apparently Kibaki chose Uhuru Kenyatta. And I want to believe that then formed the basis of the, the hue and cry and, the fallout that ultimately led to Martha Karua quitting the government then. Of course, then came the coronation of Uhuru Kenyatta as the next, the successor and the spokesperson for the Mount Kenya region. And from a political perspective, things didn't go on well for Karua in respect of elections 2013, and even finally having to lose, a gubernatorial seat to Anne Waiguru,
current governor, right?
So that in Martha Karua, from the context of Mount Kenya, I see a person who in 2008 had primed herself and positioned herself to be the next kingpin, as it were, but who somehow was sidestepped by the elders. So that, an opportunity has now arisen. We don't know how it will pan out, but let us wait and see.
Did you ever see at any given point that the likes of Moses Kuria, Martha Karua, and the former CS, Mwangi Kiunjuri, were going to come together? Because at some point, the discussion was drifting towards either we are going to be individual kind of persons going as a mountain, or they were drifting towards UDA. And now they're somehow starting to appear like they're going to have that kind of solitary agreement that we as a caucus, whoever is now planning to run for that particular seat, should come to us. So they're neutral. Come and negotiate with us. Did you see that happening, for them coming together?
No, of course, no one could have imagined that was possible within, this political discourse right now.
Yeah.
But like we say, in politics, there's, a day is a longer time. And anything happened. And I'm saying elections are some months, there might be things that will surprise us in political scenes. Negotiations, turnarounds that would, leave your mouth agape if you see it in the news, then you would wonder. Because then it's only in convergence of interest. When the interests converge, then I think there is nothing that is difficult, to attain in this political circle. No negotiations is really, difficult for them. But, let me say this, that it would be difficult for now for this caucus already to gravitate towards the DP.
Yes.
Because the DP has been hell-bent, and he said that anybody who would want to join his political camp must break away from any political parties that they have. And yet the caucuses are very clear that for them is a negotiation that is based on political parties and Mount Kenya interest. So then it leaves a room for negotiation with other political leaders, because I think for DP, Ruto and the caucus is a game that is over, because then if they stand by principles, and if the DP insists on his political manifest and believe about his UDA philosophy, then I think there is a drift in terms of ideologies and in terms of understanding. But again, you mentioned something that was quite interesting, and this is good for us to revisit here. That these leaders, one of the things that Mount Kenya actually had also suffered from, apart from years in the cold, when there was one-party state. The one is also happening in, after 2017.
Yes.
When they noticed that the political blunder they had made is to collapse their political parties and form into one.
Yes.
So even as you see their body language and, their stand is that, that kind of mistake, we will not want to do it again.
Because there are no more parties since 2013.
You see, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, because then all the 12 political parties that were collapsed to form Jubilee Party, nobody can run with them even as we speak.
Yeah.
So it is for them to form political parties again. And you've seen Moses Kuria, he formed PEP, and then there was issues with PEP. Now he's formed the Chama cha Kazi, and he would not want another mistake, to come and collapse his political parties again. The same to Mwangi Kiunjuri, the same to, all other...
The miseries that faced Honorable Moses Kuria, can we say that he's drifting from UDA? Because remember, that's where the genesis of all this thing started, because we no longer see him, with the deputy president the way he used to see him.
Look, during the by-elections in Juja,
yes,
and I think the candidate that Moses Kuria supported, won, but it was a PEP. But you know, he was affiliated to UDA by that time. And I think that is when the rain started beating, you know, the idea with UDA and PEP, there was a convergence of, you know, there was a convergence of interest at that time. But I think they have learned that the DP is hell-bent, that when you want to join his camp, you don't approach that camp with your political party. And I think you could see the push and pull between Moses Kuria and Rigathi Gachagua, who had got a candidate also in the next by-elections. So I think for them, the notice is, and I'm saying this because according to what we are seeing, and if they stand in their principles, then it means that there is a drift on the principles. One, UDA doesn't believe that you can approach them with any political parties, and they're insisting on that.
You come as an individual.
You come as an individual. If you have your party, fold it and join as a member of UDA. The Honorable Moses Kuria and the rest, Mwangi Kiunjuri, and I've said the reason why Martha Karua again, that his political party has been very consistent. You know, NAK Kenya has been there, you know, from 2013, 2017, and she has been running with.
If one does negotiate, you know, let's negotiate as a party.
As a party leader, as a party leader who represent, you know, members within that political party. So this is the lesson, and I think we might have forgotten that I am tempted to think, Victor, that in that boardroom, Martha could have lectured them, you know, on their failures before and why they got it wrong. He could have told them, you know, the political blunders that you made is that you once collapsed your political parties, is once that you supported somebody who's not interested in safeguarding political pluralism, and that is why you are here. And for their experience, I think they said, you know, the lady understands, let her lead the process.
Wakili, to any political party, and he's raised a very salient point up to that point, because most of the parties, the 12 of them were folded in 2013 and they joined the Jubilee Party. Some of them disappeared. We don't even know who are some of the MPs or members of parliament or even senators belonging to which party. We all know Jubilee Party. So for you to go and resuscitate a party, then it means you have to go back to the drawing board, go to the political, register political parties, trace the parties and all that, the party acts. It's a lot of work. But what are we learning? And probably Martha Karua and NAK Kenya has stood the test of time, that we are going to negotiate as a party leader, but that NAK Kenya is going to remain intact. What are some of the lessons that political parties can learn from all of this journey with Martha Karua until now? We are hitting 2022 general election and she's still negotiating as NAK Kenya.
I think it's all about the philosophy of the development of political parties, which we've had a major problem with in this country, notwithstanding the fact that we even have a Political Parties Act.
What are the policies?
We even have, I mean, a provision where parties are to be funded from the exchequer. I mean, coming up with that sort of an act and with such provisions must have been informed by the fact that there is a need for us to develop strong, independent political parties. Because look at it, as it stands now, I want to believe it's only the ODM party that you can say has stood the test of time. That is right from 2007.
Yes,
so that you see a strong machine that has got networks throughout the country. Of course, NAK Kenya has been there, I want to believe, from around 2013. It is unfortunate, and I think at times I understand the fears of the likes of Kiunjuri. The last time, or rather, the first time I heard of Kiunjuri, he had some party by the name GNU. And you know, it was interesting because there were these formidable parties around the Mount Kenya region, but somehow Kiunjuri always made it courtesy of that party. Candidates who felt that nominations were not done properly would ordinarily gravitate towards the party and, you know, actually win in elections. I try to imagine what would have been the position of that party had he not, you know, fallen to the trap of collapsing the party in 2017? Because there's a sense in which people had believed in, you know, Kiunjuri and the party minus the general political picture within the Mount Kenya region. So that I want to say that we must inculcate a culture of developing strong political parties which can withstand the test of time. We must avoid this scenario where we have political parties which are more or less briefcase parties, which are peppered around particular individuals. We must crave for a scenario like happens in South Africa,
yes,
where a president can be removed by the political party, the ANC. Of course, in countries like China, it's all about the political party. And interestingly, I mean, that is where Jubilee took their, their
model from.
Their model from. I recall them inviting and, so that it's interesting that that sort of a political party might just...
Actually, they also invited the Communist Party of China to...
Exactly. Yeah. And let me tell you, okay, forget about the negativities that may be there about China, but if you study the model of the party, the Communist Party of China, it's interesting and worthy of emulation. And in fact, it is that party that is responsible for the the economic revival and the fact that as we speak, China are actually in control of the world economic stratosphere.
Okay, gentlemen, I want us to give probabilities here from all the front runners of presidential. We have got Mudavadi, that is Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, we have got Raila Odinga, Ruto, and let me just put that one. So let's give a probability. Let's start with Mudavadi, Orogo. Mudavadi going for the top seat, and he said that he's going for nothing but that seat. Let's start with Mudavadi. His interest and Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
In 1 minute.
The probability in terms of...
getting a running mate and clinching the seat from Mount Kenya.
Of course. I think Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has been one of the consistent political party leaders that I think I talked about before. Without bias, I think that it's quite important for us as a country that we have a presidential candidate that, one, understands issues, secondly, is able to sober up with issues in this country. And as to why or probability, I think it's hell-bent on Mudavadi to woo and try to reach out to Martha Karua now, because now her wing is most probably the legit wing of central Kenya. Because now, when we talk about Mount Kenya, it's quite, because we even talked about the other eastern Kenya. But for central Kenya, it's quite important that Mudavadi would reach out. And I think he's able to reach out any corner, not only Mount Kenya, but in this region.
Okay.
You asked who else?
Let's go with Mudavadi first with you, Akili.
Mudavadi, let me start by saying that Mudavadi ordinarily is, can I say, the nice guy, a sober leader, a very good grasp of the economy, and no wonder for those who will not, right from, I believe from the Moi days 2002, in one way or another, sitting presidents always have Mudavadi as, the guy who we may just choose if every other thing fails.
Absolutely.
And to believe there's a reason as to why.
Absolutely.
Okay. As to the choice of deputy from Mount Kenya region, of course, given the fact that the mountain ordinarily is fixated first and foremost with the economy, I think they would really see Mudavadi as someone that they could easily work with. But of course, they would want to be convinced that Mudavadi's candidature will be viable, so that we will not give you votes and we end up losing.
Okay.
Let's also celebrate his birthday today, by the way. And it's important to wish him a happy birthday, and and he's been here, and I think he graced the opening of this, and I think it's important to recognize that
happy birthday, Mheshimiwa. Just tell where the party is and drop a pin. That's what drop pin. Okay. Let's go to number 2, Gideon Moi. Gideon Moi, we know the history of Gideon Moi. When Mzee Moi was, people thought that he was going to pick somebody else. He went for then, quote unquote, young Uhuru Kenyatta, that most people didn't imagine was going to be his choice then. So let's talk of Gideon Moi.
Well, I think he's a sprouting politician, and he has been in One Kenya Alliance as a principal, and it's important that this is a presidential, campaigns. It's neither senatorial or governor MP, and we are considering one is your experience, one is your, your convincing power, and your perception. I think Honorable Gideon Moi would be a presidential candidate, but not for 2022. It is my belief that his work is doing very good work in terms of branding, the political parties, and bringing on young faces in the political party. And I think also ANC is doing that a lot. But also Gideon Moi is trying as much as to project the face of the party as a party that is reviving the new Kanu that we are talking about.
His appeal on the mountain.
Yes, his appeal on the mountain, I think, is still insignificant, because then he needs to, what Wakili has said again, to convince, that his agenda is that he would want to safeguard the interest of Mount Kenya. But I think something works against him, that he needs to work on. That Mount Kenya has got a perception about the brutal period of his father in the reign. And I think that is one thing that he really needs to work on to break that perception with Mount Kenya.
Wakili, Gideon Moi?
Gideon Moi,
Mr. Nice Guy as well?
Of course, the nice guy also, but from the perspective of most Kenyans, I think Gideon will be the epitome of, what you call a dynasty, given the fact that the father was president for 24 years. Of course, he has the networks and everything. Unfortunate for him, of course, is the fact that, the William Ruto factor in Rift Valley, and the fact that you are talking of, someone who is outgoing and name it. On the issue of Mount Kenya, I think like Rogo has indicated, at times history can be good, it could also be bad.
Yes.
So that in as much as it is Gideon's father who was responsible, a great part towards ensuring Uhuru Kenyatta's rise to the national stage and eventual rise to the presidency, I think there is a sense in which Mount Kenya, given their connection with the economy, would always not forget that brutal history and what they felt during the 24 years in terms of, clamp down in their businesses, which was only revived by President Mwai Kibaki.
Right.
So I think that would be a challenge to some extent. In as much as, given the fact that it is his dad who gave the baton to Kenyatta, Uhuru, and I believe somehow Uhuru has also played a role in propping up Gideon to the stage where he is now. Though as to if it's the right time, I don't know. Because again, you see, I think the conversation would be different if, for example, Uhuru Kenyatta had come out clearly, strongly, and maybe managed to convince the likes of Raila Odinga to support the candidature of Gideon Moi. Then I think it would be a different story, even from within.
Okay. Before you respond, let's just hold that. Kalonzo Musyoka.
Kalonzo Musyoka also apparently always a good guy. I don't know what became of, there's a sense in which maybe because of his certain moves in 2007, which apparently created a sense of, a sense in which people would not trust him so much. And apparently it affects both sides of the divide. Both the team that he purported to support, which is the PNU, and which would be the wider Mount Kenya region, and as well as, the part that it is always perceived that, he betrayed, that is the ODM brigade. I think that has really affected Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. In as much as, and I want to say this, he is one of the leaders that I can say is brutally honest. I think he's one person that, one of the leaders that we seriously need to consider if we are serious about, having a leadership that would fight corruption as it were, by deed, I think that would be Kalonzo Musyoka. Of course, when it comes to the position of deputy president for the Mount Kenya region, ordinarily, I would have expected, given the proximity between Cumberland and Mount Kenya region, I would have expected the nexus to come out easy. Of course, why not for some of those issues that I've raised?
The exclamation before the statement, the exclamation had...
Which, for Kalonzo?
Yes.
I think Kalonzo has to shed off the baggage of betrayal. You know,
perhaps that's where it came from, the watermelon.
Yeah, the watermelon thing. And I think he's tried so much to shed it off and even take responsibility for it and acknowledge, you know, to make fun of people who make fun of him. But I think it sometimes work against, you know, his posture as a potential presidential candidate. I agree with Wakili that Kenya needs to consider and give him some leeway. But I think it's also important on him to really work hard and go out of his way, out of his, Kamba, constituency, and begin to have a real talk with the people of Central Kenya. I think that would really help him, try to shed off that tag, because even within Oka, people would actually think that he would want to run away with the whole idea. So I think it's important for him to begin to narrow down and talk to people. Posture himself, have a team that is able to work on him and rebrand Kalonzo Musyoka the way Gideon is really working hard to do.
Let's go with Justin Muturi.
Muturi is, what do I say? Well, non-starter. For me, I think Muturi has seniority on his position. But then there is a difference in terms of mobilization for a region. You've seen, the Nchurincheka has tried so much to remarket and rebrand Muturi. But again, is not able to have that political gravitas to convince, that is able to mobilize even the eastern, Mount Kenya region. So I think for him, his negotiation is at a level where he would settle for other positions in that region, but not really like, a flag bearer. One, he's not, Victor, let me tell you something. It's not only a factor of appealing also to Mount Kenya. But, Mount Kenya is also looking at who can you get out of our region and go outside and begin to talk to other people. That is what Jimmy is doing. That is what Wanjigi is doing, because he knows the safe landing is on region. But then how would even your own region believe you if you cannot go out and convince other people in other regions as well?
I'm told we have got like only 4 minutes. Let's go with Muturi, Raila. Start with Muturi.
With Muturi, I would say that this is one of the candidates whose gravitas would have been felt if the initial perception that was there at the time when his candidature was introduced, was sustained. There was that perception that this is an Uhuru Kenyatta project. And let me say that in as much as, people tend to have this, there's this thing that, a president, outgoing president might not have so much power in terms of, determining who will be the next. But let me tell you, there's a sense in which if a sitting president comes out clearly and establishes this is my candidate, then you definitely get that gravitas. And I think it has come out clear that that is not the case in respect of Muturi, so that I really do not see him having so much hold, even from within the context of Mount Kenya, which would then, as it were, enable him to have so much gravitas even outside.
Okay, gentlemen, allow me to stop at that point. We still have got Raila Odinga. We still have
Why are we not discussing him?
Deputy President William Ruto because of time. But in 10 seconds each, let's dissect Raila Odinga.
Yes.
In 10 seconds.
Well, this is what is here. He's fought for democracy in this country. He's seen as the father of multi-party. As a change, as a reformist. But then, in that region, I think there were conspiracy theories about him. that one, he is scared in terms of he would not safeguard the interest of the people. The region fears that he would revenge on some issues that happened.
Was that politically, it was politically created?
I think it's politically created, and that is why all these the BBI team, as we were talking about, are really trying so much to rebrand him and retell the story. Because everywhere you think he is in Murang'a, is in Kiambu, a story must always be told about the history of Jaramogi coming down to him, so that perception would be broken. And I think that is the only tag that Honorable Raila Odinga is having in that region, that he has to shed off the tag of being vengeful, and taking care of the interest of the region.
Raila Odinga, Ken.
I think for Raila, I would say that his reform credentials and the role he's played for, to make the country to reach where it is now, that is unquestionable. He has also got some stint in government as a prime minister, where he had the opportunity and indeed demonstrated his capacity in terms of in an executive position, and we saw the gains that were done by the Grand Coalition government in respect of Mount Kenya. Therefore, I would say this is therefore critical at this time, given that we have two serious candidates. So that the question that is there in the country now is, who amongst the candidates would be in a position to safeguard what I would call the economic gains that have been done by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and at least move the country in a direction, if not close to where Kibaki left it. And I think that's where Raila Odinga now...
The DP. The DP, go for it.
10 seconds, 15. The DP would therefore be the antithesis of Raila Odinga. And that is why we have got two strands in election 2022. Such that, of course, with Raila there is reform. For the DP, of course, you would call it, can I say, something close to zero in terms of the role in the reform movement. And then, of course, secondly, and I think the DP really needs to look at this keenly, in the push for a UDA that has got no room whatsoever for other political parties. There is a sense in which there is a feeling that crops up that, look, this gentleman might just be the guy who may return us to where we were during those days. And I think to the Mount Kenya region, and that's why the leadership, the people might still not see it in the ground, but the leadership who've been there for some time are seeing a red flag. I think it's something which the DP seriously needs to reconsider. It may just be his Achilles heel in 2022.
With the DP, as we close.
A populist and who's gained favor in many regions. And I think that works for him because he's tagged as the deputy president and as a person who had been in the government. The Hasna narrative sweeping with no understanding of what it is, and I think even in central Kenya. But I think the tire is that the caucus that we are talking about would present a serious challenge to his agenda because of the people that are there. And the tag one that he interfered with nominations in 2017, Honorable Kabogo has been in this set and have talked about his nominations being interfered with.
And now he's in the caucus.
And now he's in the caucus. He presents a very strong challenge. Martha Karua said that he would rather work with Raila than work with the DP. And I think she's been very categorical in the public saying this. So I think for him is that his agenda is well cut. The Haston narrative is sweeping, but I think there is a puncture in that central Kenya is slowly being fragmented and is focusing, on other areas. But allow me to say this generally for all political flag bearers. We cannot be talking about presidential candidates who have not understood that young people between the ages of 18 has gained the ID and they're going to vote for the first time. I keep on saying this on record. The tiebreaker would be youth who do not understand about multi-party, youth who do not understand whether your cabinet secretary is 1990s, young people who've not even appreciated history. The only thing that they know is that they need jobs. They need to be employed. So I think this is where the hustler dynamic is sweeping, because the youth are not buying into history. They're not buying into demographics.
There's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect.
Right.
So all presidential candidates who are not going to get this right and who are not going to speak to the 5 million IBC are projecting that are going to vote for the first time would get it wrong on the ballot.
Gentlemen, before we finish, in just 1 minute, Director, please. Ken Wakili, we have this story of the fuel levy and the hue and cry about the wananchi, and you're one of the petitioners. The intention to file a petition in court to compel the government actually to reduce the fuel prices. You're one of the petitioners, right?
Yes, I actually act for the petitioners. The petitioners are a community-based organization based in Korogocho. And what they're saying basically, because there is a petition done as a class action lawsuit, generally for all the people of Kenya who are affected by the hike in fuel prices. Part of the orders that we are seeking in court, perhaps most Kenyans may not be aware that there's a sense in which the Commissioner General of the KRA has already done or rather made a decision recommending the increment of excise duty on fuel products, which ought to be implemented by the 1st of September 2021. Of course, subject to ratification by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Treasury. So that would then mean that in as much as right now we are crying about the prices in fuel, the same is bound to increase even more after that decision on the 1st of October. So we have moved to court to petition, seeking that the same order by the KRA to be quashed. We are also saying, because there are multiplicity of issues that we would want addressed in that petition, for example, the question of the fuel subsidy fund that was created some times back and which was meant to cushion Kenyans against such hikes in petroleum product prices. Apparently, as we speak, there is no regulation. There are no regulations. We don't know how the same is being managed. It's not clear what is its role. And yet we are aware that in the last budget, a decision was made and it's being implemented where taxes from the fuel development levy are channeled towards that particular fund, so that we want the requisite organs to come clear and explain to Kenyans, I mean, how does this thing operate? How would Kenyans be cushioned in respect of this? Of course, finally, we have also roped in the National Assembly, which, as we know, keep on crying together with Kenyans, and yet they're the ones who formulate the laws, the taxes that we know are hurting the people of Kenya.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we've completely overrun our time. And we just need to appreciate you for your valid company, and even you, the viewer, for taking your time from 6 when we started this particular program, and this particular point we are closing this show. Gentlemen, Ken Amondi, who is a Wakili here with us, and as well as Daniel Orogo, who is our political analyst. Thank you so much for coming to the show. And you, as a viewer, we do appreciate you. Without you, the show haizi kuwa. That's how we say it. All right, see you tomorrow. My name is Victor Lowe. Have a fantastic morning. Bye-bye.
The stage was set for fashion bloggers in the country to have a glimpse of what was cooking in Kenya's fashion kitchen. Even though the runway was designed to be the main center of attraction, there was plenty to take note of on the sidelines. Almost to the last man, those in attendance demonstrated a high sense of fashion. With the lights and camera ready, the runway got busy. Designer after designer, the evening was that of variety, a pointer to the high level of creativity in the country. This wasn't a competition amongst designers, but an opportunity for designers to present their perspective.
I thought it was an amazing idea because it's not a very big arena for bloggers to showcase their talents except for Instagram or Facebook. And it's about time that, brands and blogs have a beautiful runway to show what they can actually do together.
The networking is what is important, and I think bloggers, they're not very noticed in this